Hello, hello, soulful seekers. Welcome back. This is a surprise. This podcast is no longer trauma and transcendence. And I know that's what you've been used to. But with change comes good things. So, what I'm really happy to tell you today is the podcast has been renamed and it is called Soulreign. And the whole purpose for choosing this podcast name, same intent as the previous podcast. I'm still going to explore trauma. I'm still going to find people's stories and experiences with transcendence for you. And still going to be bringing on really great guests who've had experiences to share as well as solutions for you. But we're changing format. So as you can see, if you are watching this live, then you already know this is now a live stream podcast. It's going to be live streaming over on YouTube. And then I want to say my Facebook personal account because Riverside and Facebook are not currently playing nice for me. And that is what it is. But that's what's up. So what I'm doing here essentially is saving myself so much time. No more editing. And you guys are going to have a lot more raw, candid moments coming from the podcast. But thank you so much for being loyal, for being here, and continuing to show up as I continue to evolve and grow, and this podcast continues to evolve and grow. And before I forget, this podcast is brought to you by Healing Beyond Trauma, Hypnotherapy, and Trauma-Informed Coaching. Every single episode is capable and available because of Healing Beyond Trauma. And if it not had been for that, this podcast would not be here. So if you are looking for a wonderful way to support the podcast, keep me going, Healing Beyond Trauma, booking sessions, exploring ways to discover your healing and growth is the best way to do that currently. As for other news, we have a guest today. I've got the wonderful Brian Bay. I can't wait for you to meet him. He is a colleague as well as a friend over the past couple of years, and we've had some great mutual friends that we're going to talk about today. And I'm just waiting for Brian to be able to load in and hop on. While I am doing that, let's talk about other changes. Oh my goodness. There is never a dull moment over here. I don't know about you guys, but I do not seem to have any dull moments. So some of you know that I changed where my practice location is, and I'm now giving services over at Dale McCutcheon's Martial Arts Studio by Evan Gotti. And so that's where I'm seeing my Reiki clients, my hypnotherapy clients, coaching clients, and coming up very, 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 very soon, I'm going to be bringing to you in the new year, group meditation events are coming back. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to have some input on that. Let me know what group events you want available and to have come back. It looks like, Brian, we've got you. But
I don't know what is going on with this camera. It's a camera within the laptop, and
it's not the camera. It's Riverside. And so Riverside,
your words, not mine.
It is. I'm getting the message from Riverside. They're letting me know that your camera is being used by some other app. Who knows what's happening there? It could be a tab. It could be anything.
Yeah, I completely shut down, restarted, and then I had to open up Facebook to go, all right, I need the link again. And then I closed that out completely. So I am.
So today, my friends, what you have is the audio of Brian Bay. He didn't say he was going to do this, but he's going to do some ASMR for us.
Oh God. Yeah. Mom always said I had a face for radio.
Your own mother.
I know. It's with parents like those, who needs friends or enemies. And for some reason it's just going to like all kick on randomly. I don't know why, but all right, we're just I see something that says 97% uploading, so it may just be.
No, that is the episode. That is a Riverside thing. We will talk about that later, but we are currently live. So
wonderful. Well,
let's just go ahead and get on into it because I wanted to start on time.
I'm gonna cry in my beer. It's only 10 a.m.
For you.
Yeah. So no, So good news with everybody. Grant Saunders is back home safe in Manchester.
He made it.
He had just the kindness of his heart to call me at 5:30 in the morning with video.
That's a friend. That's a genuine friend when they do that.
Yeah. So,
and he must be so happy for the warm weather there compared to where he was.
Oh God, some of the videos that I saw, just snow blowing across the roads and everything like that, and just cars buried underneath snow. I think I commented to Grant and Sean. I said, God, that looks like a Matchbox car on Charlie Sheen's nightstand. But
that's terrible.
I'm a horrible person, Amanda.
You are the one who will get me completely censored on my first time making this podcast go live in real time. I knew it was going to be you.
And demonetized. See, if you get me hanging around Grant and Sean and some of my friends, we can, just, if you had to edit it out and censor it, it would just sound like Morse code. Just you can't say that.
Wouldn't be comprehensible anymore.
Yeah, that's all while we're trying to finalize the schedule for Performing Hypnosis Summit. But so short version. Thank you for having me on the show, at least in audio form. And so kind of tell me what's going on in your world.
Oh God, my world. We've got this backwards. Tell me a little bit about you. I know you are a hypnotist. I know you've been through some pretty heavy things in life, and that hypnosis was part of that self-healing journey. Do you want to delve into some of that?
Yeah, send it. Let's go.
Okay.
So I'm a military veteran.
Yeah.
In the Army. So #Go Army Beat Navy. We were close this year by one point, but hell of a game. I'll take it. So I did just right about 6 years. Got out, not in a manner that I had hoped. Not anything really that bad conduct or anything like that. You get it was funny. You get to your unit, you get issued like 3 to 4 shopping carts full of gear. In there was a former spouse, and questionable life choices at the time, because when you're 19, getting married, what could possibly go wrong? Murphy said, hold my scotch. So I got out, and then it was just sort of a, you talk about like Forrest Gumping your way through life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now a reformed family law paralegal, and I do do a lot more with personal injury and things like that. But out of necessity, I learned the legal field just to try to save a lot of attorney's fees. And so I have a published opinion in the Court of Appeals. Well, it's my case. My attorney did the lion's share of the work, but it was a kind of a parental alienation, family relocation type thing. But now like I said, I've gone into I actually met Jim Kellner just one day. I was at work, and it was just kind of one of those things where you get it was like a country music song. In the course of 3 days, the woman that I was living with for 6 years decided, like, oh, I'm moving, I'm out. Lost my job, and then my ex-wife at the time found out about that, and it was like, great, motion and declaration and litigation all over again. And I just went,
that's what they do, kick them when you're down.
I was just like, F this, I'm done. I've got to jump off the crazy train. And it was, I remember I was, empty kitchen in my house, and I just went, okay, I'm doing zero adulting right now. I'm gonna jump on what was it? It was not
survival
MySpace
mode is what it is.
I think it was meetup.com. And I remember I was like, all right, just what is the wildest, dumbest thing that I could look up topic wise?
You found Jim.
You want to talk about like a sign from Blues Brothers, on a mission from God. I looked up hypnosis just because I remember my high school grad night. And sure enough, I think it was one of the NGH chapters or somebody. They were meeting, I think, in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know he was part of NGH.
It was, I think it was the Seattle chapter, maybe, or I don't know. But I messaged them, and it's like somebody's condo, and I'm just kind of like what could possibly go wrong? I'm going to go into a stranger's home and get on the news. At least I don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. Like I was just you could have said, Brian, you're going skydiving without a parachute, and Travis Pastrana's not with you, and I would have been like, word, let's go. I couldn't have cared less. And so I think at that time I was on like a bunch of different medications because I was the custodial parent of two small children. Yeah. And so I went to the VA, and it was like, all right, I need to get on any type of medication. I need anti-anxiety, antidepressants, whatever. I just need something to maintain. It was 100% a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
And so at that time, I'm guessing, had you been diagnosed with PTSD or complex PTSD by that point?
No.
Okay.
It was.
Were you having flashbacks or emotional flashbacks?
Flashbacks to the point where it was like I was recounting the times when I was in the military that I really relied on my leadership to have my back and have some support. And when I say they kicked me in the nuts, it was like with a running start.
Yeah.
And, rug pulled out from under me, go back to the, it's 5 o'clock on 5:30 on a Friday. So it's after business hours. They overdrawn my bank account. I've got the last couple things in the bed of my pickup truck, and I'm being escorted off the base. And I'm like, but you guys are just tired of dealing with my ex-wife. And if I'm not in the military anymore, she's not your problem. But I'm like, but I still have this problem that all I want to do is get up and go to work and do good things. And, understandably so. I was in a special operations unit. So, we've got guys doing things in places, real world stuff. And, when somebody makes an accusation, and in hindsight, this was all, just posturing to get positional advantage in the family law side of things. I was kind of at the end of, to my ex-wife, I was a resource. Again, dumbest thing I could have done was got married at 19. And so
I don't know if it's just an age thing, unfortunately. But it does. And then again,
oh God, it's a lot of things. My parents were divorced, and I graduated high school and I was still 17. So I spent the entire summer, and then it wasn't until the end of September that I turned 18. I could actually put some things in places. Went off, like I had a huge falling out with both my mom and my dad. So I graduated basic training, and I remember I went home on Christmas leave. My high school girlfriend's family, they let me keep the car at their house. Really, came through for me. It's like their second family. And I remember it was probably 4 or 5 days before Christmas. It was probably maybe not today, but probably within a couple days ago for Christmas, that I remember I knocked on my dad's door, rang the doorbell, and there I am in dress uniform. Dad opens the door and kind of does this like double take of, where the hell have you been for the last 6 months? Our relationship changed. It was, okay, I'm no longer that 17-year-old. I've grown up, and he asked me what I was doing, and I, told him about, the job that I had and where I was going to be stationed and the contract and things like that. And all of a sudden it was like his face lit up, and I didn't know if it was like a combination of I'm really proud of my son, or ha 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 ha, you're the government's problem now. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and Dad's looking down on me now, probably smiling a little bit. And so it was, yeah. So kind of we'll
So you
Jen
started out
Psaki.
with a pretty wild ride.
Yeah, we'll Jen Psaki circle back,
Yeah.
to the night I met Jim. So I go to this person's house, and it was Sean Summers. They answered the door, and Sean, if you've never met him, is a just one of the most unique people I've ever met. But everybody was like, come on in. How are you doing? So we're sitting in this lady's room, like a family room, and they're like, hey, how long have you been doing hypnosis? And like, this is this person, this person. So you're like going around the room, doctor, doctor, doctor. I felt like Chevy Chase in a 1980s movie with Bill Murray. And so completely out of place. I mean, you want to talk about a fish out of water. I'm like, I am the youngest person here by probably 15 years.
Yeah.
And everybody's just kind of like, here's the new guy. And so they go do the stuff, and they're like, so what brings you here? How long have you been doing hypnosis? And I'm like, I work for an insurance company. I've never done hypnosis a day in my life. I had a bad experience with a hypnotherapist that just wanted to, kumbaya. And, it's not that she was bad at her job. It's just she and I were not a match with how she did things. And so I was like, look, I need some help. Like, I'm at the end of my rope with
toxic positivity to almost death.
No, not even that. It was, so if you may have noticed, there's probably some traces of, squirrel syndrome, the ADD, where we kind of bounce around. And
it's on the trauma spectrum, my friend. That is
it's
not
also
accidental.
on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
I got some tism. But yeah, it was, what I needed was very direct, very rapid induction suggestions. And she's like, okay, lay down. And
so she induction and deepened you to death. I hate that.
It wasn't even that. It was just like a ton of choices going, okay, imagine a place that like brings you peace. I'm like, well, the ocean brings me peace, and like snowboarding, and then being on a motorcycle, and then this, and then finally I just kind of got bored with it, and I started counting the holes in the ceiling. And then I started getting really angry and upset, going, I paid how much? And she insisted cash. Like, oh God, this is the last bit of money that I have.
When you're counting holes in the ceiling, that's a whole other kind of induction that was not sanctioned.
Yeah. I just kind of was like, I remember just kind of sitting up going like, yep, I got nothing. I left feeling more, I was kind of like, okay, hypnosis, this is going to be every bit of the myths that you see in the stereotypes on. I was looking for, I forget the actor's name in Office Space. I wanted to be like, oh, bills? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be paying those. And, let's watch Kung Fu with Jennifer Aniston, and completely ignoring the guy, Stephen Root, going, that's my red swing line stapler, and I play my music at a reasonable volume. But it was, so here's kind of the pivotal moment. And I hashtag foreshadowing, because when we talk about this on the 26th, it's kind of one of my favorite stories about Jim. Is I'm telling him about, like, look, I've got to get off these medications. I'm experiencing side effects. And when Doc goes and, oh, well, how's your depression and anxiety? And I'm like, look, when someone's not showing up for morning formation first thing, that's adding to my anxiety and depression. If you smell what I'm stepping in.
I mean, you already had a whole bunch of stuff going, and then on top of that, it's like, who am I anymore? If you're you've lost that whole identity attached to the military and that career.
I kind of had like a little hobby side thing where I would do some graphic design and screen printing and like heat press vinyl, making t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff. And he goes, hey, how much would you charge to make me a couple of t-shirts? I'm going to go out and do street hypnosis this weekend. And whatnot. And he goes, you're a local, small business, if you will. And Jim was very giving when it came to that. Like, I want to support you in any way that I can. And then he goes, and of course I was like, yeah, dude, I've got some spare shirts, because you always order extras. And I was like, yeah, dude, you need one or two? Like, I got you. Vinyl's cheap. We'll get some extra scraps and everything. What you're asking for is not super intricate. It's simple and straightforward. And I was like, I got you. And he goes,
was it yet the damn I'm pretty?
No, that came.
Okay.
So if you look on his collection, you'll see the two of us wearing the black shirts that says "Ask me to hypnotize you."
Okay.
And then like on the where a breast pocket would be on the T-shirt, where you would put a small logo, it just said "Master Hypnotist Jim Kellner."
Yeah.
And so he goes, I'm like, yeah, dude, I could totally, too easy, man. And he goes, all right, make one for you too, because I want you to come out and we'll teach you how to do this. And I'm kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
And he goes, so, okay, now that's taken care of, he goes, listen, like, it kind of pulls me aside. He goes, like, look, I heard your story, like, you're hurting bad. And he goes, if you're interested, he goes, I don't want to charge you. He goes, I want to work with you. I want to help you. And I was like, absolutely. I totally. And of course he was like, no, I insist on paying you for the shirts. I'm like, no. It would take me longer to figure out how much it costs and everything. And it'll take me like 15 minutes. And he goes, okay, so here's what I want to do. And that was, I remember the first time we worked together, he was like, okay, like, give me a call, throw some earbuds in, kick back, lay down in bed, get comfy. And, he starts talking and follow directions. And then the next thing I know, I've been asleep for a week. And I wake up and I just shoot up in a panic going, oh, wait, oh my God, the phone's hung up. I'm going, oh no, I just did like the big, like, slap in the face to him. So I call him back in a panic. It's like 45 minutes later. He's laughing. He goes, oh, dude, I'm just working on your recording, man. Like, yeah, I kind of had to edit out some of the snoring, but yeah, you did great. You still heard everything. Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. And I was like, dude, that's the first time I've probably slept in months.
Which was exactly what you needed.
Yeah, it was 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe, but I felt like I'd been asleep for a week and a half. And so we I'm like, all right, that's awesome. And so like it was, we met that one night, and I think it was like a night or two later, and then the next day was going to be, hey, let's go do the street hypnosis. And so he's at this farmer's market at University of Washington, and so there's a small couple, 2-3 of us, and it was like, okay, well, so we got the cameras, and all right, so here's how we do it. Like, we should just kind of practice on each other. He goes, all right, Brian, so here, I'm going to use you as the test dummy. All right. So I'm like the bait. So he starts doing the induction on me. And then he goes, I hear him say, okay, you've got super glue on your back. And as I lay you down, and he lays me down on the corner of University Avenue and 50th Street, right next to the curb. He goes, oh, here, let me move your head so you don't like stick your hair in the chewed gum that's on the ground. Now my body is shaking because I am laughing going, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but it's hilariously stupid. Now it's the middle of summer, and I hear people all around me going, is he okay? Do we need to call 911? Is he having like a heat stroke? Did he faint? Is he alive? And my eyes are closed, and is he having a seizure? And I hear Jim going like, no, he's fine. He's just hypnotized. And they're like, wait, what? And so I can't get up, and I'm stuck to the ground. Then he goes, okay, eyes wide open. And that's when we kind of start getting a small crowd around. And then, that was born. And then that led to meeting and doing filming a training DVD with Justin James down in Seattle. And there I met Dan Hedrick from Hillsboro, Oregon. And then in talking, so when I learned how to do the street hypnosis, that kind of came naturally because I was just making stuff up as I went along. Again, don't have a business, not performing. I don't care. I'm just going to send it.
That's the best way to learn, isn't it? When there's no agenda, there's no expectation. It's just purely present in the moment.
Yeah. And so so Jim introduced me to Dan, and so I'm kind of taking Dan through the whole thing about how Jim's working with me, and Dan says, hey, I do this one day super intensive thing. And I'm like, all right, tell me more. And he's like, it really kind of helps people get out of their own way. Mm-hmm. And I'm paraphrasing. And so he goes, I usually charge, and he put you would have at that time with my disposable income, you might as well have put like a lottery price on there. And I was like, I'm like, I'd love to do it, but there's absolutely no way, like with what's going on. I'm in litigation and just barely keeping my head above water.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, I still want you to have skin in the game. And this is how much of a ninja Dan is. He says, you figure out how to get from your place north of Seattle to just outside of Portland, Oregon. I'll give you my address. You'll come to my house. And so he goes, we need to give me like a week's notice or something. I was like, all right, cool. So we end up setting it up a couple months later. And I went down there and Dan kind of gives me the, quick hypnotherapy 101, just like, this is how it works, not how to do it. And I spent the majority of the day in a lazy boy recliner. And at the end of it, you would have thought I ran the Boston Marathon.
Tranced out the whole time.
It was up, down, but just mental. I left his house and drove home, for 3 hours just going, oh my God, I have never been more mentally or emotionally smoked. Just, I'm like, oh my God, I am like I need to sleep.
I bet you slept that night.
Oh God, it was just brutal getting home. Yeah. And so he goes, okay, so you're going to start to notice that, over the next week, there's going to be different ways on how you respond to different things. And so I started doing that. And then I think the next time I ran into Dan, I think it was either online or whatever. And I was like, Dan, I think it took me maybe 10 days or so. And I said, Dan, I've been medication free, all of the pharmaceuticals and everything like that. And I started to feel really good. And so I think it was about that time that, Jim started the Friday Night Live. And then that turned into Hypnosis Hero, couple names in between, I'm sure. Yeah. And so he goes, hey, I want you to come on as a guest. I was like, Jim, I'm not a hypnotist, man. He goes, but Brian, you've hypnotized people. You've been out with me a handful of times. Like, you can do this. So therefore, by default, and kind of explain the math. And I'm kind of like, all right, huzzah, I'm a hypnotist. And so I jump on the broadcast with him. We chat, time flies. And then he's like, all right, cool. Can you come back next week? Like, dude,
that was single. Your interview for co-host.
Yeah, I'm like, it was, I think that Jim Bob Martin'd me into that. And so it was, I mean, if Jim was selling cars, he would have made millions, but it was just one of those things. I was like, it was Friday night. I'm a broke single man. Like, I don't have time to go out and party and this, that, and the other. And so it just turned into, one day he's like, okay, I'm my co-host. And I'm like, wait, what? All right, straight face, be professional-ish. And so it was I just had fun with it. And then it was when we would go out and do street hypnosis, and he'd be like, hey, do you want to help me teach? Do you want to do a speaking thing on street hypnosis? I'm like, am I qualified, Jim, to do this? I'm like, at what point are we, does this go into irresponsibility? And he's like, street hypnosis, you can't hurt anybody. You know the safety stuff, and you're really big on that. I was like, all right, because I remember we went out for dinner after filming the Street Hypnosis Mafia DVD with Justin James, and he was like, all right, Brian, like Justin totally dad talked me, and he goes, so potentially against my better judgment, he goes, I've taught you a skill. I in a sense have given you a samurai sword, and I implore you to wield it with the respect and everything that it deserves, not only so that you don't end up in jail doing something stupid, getting sued, but more importantly, I don't want to end up getting sued and having to explain. And so there was, being having experience in the legal industry and stuff like that, I understood.
Yeah.
And so, going through, the different, like, Safe on Stage, that's a free online training that Justin has, where people can go get their performance or the performing liability insurance and things like that. But it's also wonderful material and the price is right. So but yeah, it was going through working with Dan and then kind of going back to the VA going, I want to get off of these meds. I need to get with somebody. And then I think it was, yeah, because I had now during this time I had been going through to counseling and had a wonderful counselor, but going back, girlfriend moved out. Well, I need a roommate. So I had this wonderful lady named Tanya, and she got along great with my kids. And she's since gotten married. We're still great friends to this day. Both her and her husband are wonderful people. So she has moved into her house, and she started her home staging design. And her husband was in law enforcement. So this thing comes out and says, hey, my husband got a call with a lost elderly man, took him back to like a 55 and up, sort of a double wide living, trailer park living community. But it's not quite hoarding, but he can't quite care for himself. He's sort of just overwhelmed with stuff, and there needs to be upgraded and things like that. So she got it in her, her charitable mind, bless her for that. And she goes, hey, I think the guy was like a Vietnam veteran. And I think that's really where everything came in. So what turned into, let's pull up some carpet, let's throw some paint and clean some things up, turned into like, we're going to strip this thing down to studs. And so one of the construction guys that was out there was I think a Navy veteran. And I was talking with him, and he says, hey man, like we were discussing VA disability ratings. And he goes, hey, call this lady. She works for the VA. She does stuff. She's able to help veterans kind of on a part-time basis and whatnot. So I reach out to her and, kind of tell her what I had going on. And she's asking me the questions. And she's like, now she's in North Carolina. Her husband's a former Ranger and former Green Beret. So she knows everything that I'm talking about. And she's like, oh, honey, she's like, I'm not a physician or a psychologist, psychiatrist, mental health person. She goes, but I'm going to tell you, you got PTSD like really bad. And she goes, I can hear it in your voice. And so she ends up working with me. We finally get my first VA rating. We appeal, we go up, start at 70%, then to 80, then to 90, then okay, last year I finally got to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a journey. Yeah.
Oh yeah, navigating the VA healthcare system. So people go, we want single payer government, such and such. I'm like, listen to all the people in Canada and England going, sucks.
I will be calling you when my husband gets to that point.
Yeah.
He's active duty, and he's Army Reserves. He went from being in supply to now recruiting. But he did actually get injured in his service when we were living in Spokane, Washington. He was doing Army combatives. One of the moves, something popped in his neck. And he actually had to go and get it fused. That was a journey. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
So when it comes time and he's getting closer to retirement and having to do all that stuff, I'm going to give you a call.
I may have you. I'm going to send you. Karen is amazing.
He's got a ways still. He's got another 3 to 5 years, assuming everything is good and keeps moving. But
so Karen's business partner Michael is a former Black Hawk pilot that crashed a helicopter, and the rudder pedal jammed up into his leg and caused the top part, like in his hip, to go get jammed and wedged in there. And so it was either this crazy surgery that takes him off of flight status, or I think he did like 18 months of chiropractic and physical therapy and everything. And then they finally, his wife was like, honey, you're not flying anymore. So it's time to get out. But yeah, it was, I really didn't recognize, and that's kind of the challenge of when you're dealing with PTSD is if you don't know what it's like saying, hey, how do I know that I have cancer? And you're like, all I know is just stuff's not right and I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And there's really no like blood test or anything. You just have to go in and, one, talk to somebody that you don't know, and, kind of just bare your soul.
Yeah.
And hope they're
And
not going
pray
to
that
turn.
you got the right person that's actually going to be able to see you
Oh
for who
yeah.
you are and not what they're projecting or.
One of the first counselors I saw, and not to disparage, we're so close to Christmas. I'm gonna try to take the high road here. We'll just agree that we were not a good fit when it came to working together. And
that fit is important because I had a few mismatched as well, and one was really detrimental.
Yeah, I just kind of sat there and I'm like, okay, what the hell are we doing here? Like, what is the plan? Because I come in, I'm in here 3 days a week going, the same stuff that was 2 days ago is still on my plate, and I'm just burning gas driving down here and nothing is getting taken off my plate, and I'm burning up time as well.
At least you weren't getting in the car, having an emotional flashback, and then trying to drive home, wondering what the hell just happened.
Well, I mean, it was one of those things that's like, so it was this crazy, not that dramatic, but it was just wild to me. So the next guy that I got paired up with, I mean, we kind of just work some creative VA voodoo and get, because what's weird is with our healthcare system, it's all about how you articulate. It was like, okay, are you feeling anything like this? And it was like, well, I can be. And they're like, okay, cool. If you feel this way, then we can press this button and enter this code. And now all of a sudden you're eligible. I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah. So it was our first couple meetings. And I remember the first meeting I got in there, I was just super on edge. And it was almost like me interviewing him. And I was like, look, I'm just going to level with you. I'm like, think of all the weight that's weighing me down right now. It is super deep inside the caverns that are my mind. And I need you to walk with me, and we are going to go to some dark, 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 dark places. I need to be able to verbalize some of this stuff just simply to get it out without fear that, a tactical team is not going to show up at my house. I'm not going to be put in a padded room with the gribby socks because now I'm just trapped and I can't do anything about it. And I'm like, I'll take the Remington retirement plan all day long before I subject myself to that. And so it was like, I'm like, what are your professional, guidelines that we can still color inside without overreacting? And he was like, as long as you don't convey that, like, you have a plan, or cause me to think that you're in. And he goes, and if you start getting there, like, I'll kind of do a check-in with you. And it was just taking that time to communicate expectations and set those boundaries, because I understand that he has a professional liability and obligations that he's
they have a pretty dark humor, so
exactly. And
it's a survival strat.
I'm like there's a one-liner in there, but I'm like, nope, we're not going to say it. We're not going to say it. We're not going to mention harvesting in the South, but
and you were someone who was very, very much ready to do the work that needed to be done. And some people don't even have that on the map when they're starting to realize or think they may have PTSD. Like, that's the furthest thing from their mind.
So
and then to know how to go about it. But you were full on ready.
I was
to do it.
Mentally, I was prepared for both. I was ready to do the work. Is there a path? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? And if that light that I think is at the end of the tunnel turns out to be a train, I'm going to sprint full speed head on and meet that thing with what is it? There was a cool term. I was just going to be like, all right, let's send it. And it wasn't any attention seeking. It wasn't a cry for help. It wasn't, how many people, it wasn't a game to me. It wasn't how many people can I get to jump and drop what they're doing and show up. And then I go, okay, cool. Thank you. Talk me off the ledge after jumping on 2 airplanes, flying from Southern California up to Washington. And then, okay, next week we're going to do the same thing because, because there's people that are like that. Yeah. It was, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I just want the pain to stop. And so, I've actually had conversations with people at the VA, and I've really been trying to, for the last couple of years, try to get one-on-one meetings with senior leadership, especially at the Seattle location where I've had some challenges, and going, when you get, like all the different medical appointments, like there's chiropractic and all the different kind of pain management rehab type stuff. And then just your normal care that you've got to go through because, after you turn 40, stuff just starts falling apart, falling off the wagon. But it's one of those things where you have to go jump through all these hoops, and it's like a full-time job.
It is.
And I feel fortunate that I've got the luxury of having the disability income coming in, that it covers the majority of my, like my basic living expenses. And so I've got the time that I could designate to that. But if I had, if I still had 2 small children at home or a family, it would, and a full-time job, I would be like, okay, well now I have to, if I can squeak that one phone call in and not be able to follow up, well, I may not be able to have that opportunity for several months. And that stuff stacks up. And then when you're, trying to get chiropractic or massage for any type of like pain management, your choices are, all right, I go to work or my family doesn't eat.
And then hypnosis is still not on that menu yet, is it?
It is, but if I recall correctly, you have to be credentialed, because we were trying to get Jim in on this.
I think I am, but I don't know what the follow-up process is. So it's really weird. My husband's post 9/11 GI Bill paid my education, and
which is amazing.
Yeah, no, it paid 2 full programs. I was in school for like 5 years. And the programs I chose were approved by the VA, but I don't know where to go from there.
So
both of them.
with Jim, he maintained his hypnotherapy license, I think, out of Arizona. I
did too. And so he didn't get it from SWEHA, did he? Southwest Institute of Healing Arts.
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. If I was on camera, I'd look up and it'd be like, Uncle Jim.
Give me a few minutes. I just might.
Yeah.
He's been around.
So the challenge that we had with Jim was he was in Arizona. He was licensed out of Arizona. Yeah. Even though he could have been sitting right next to me, they go, well, he would need to be licensed in Washington State and then contracted out of Washington State. So it makes it difficult to do any remote work. So Jim was just like, dude, let's just take care of you.
Yeah.
And, it was, that type of stuff was incredibly special. But it's, going back to like the 22 veterans a day that we lose, it's my hypothesis, because it's not a proven theory yet, is that it's not guys come back and, down, on the 2-way rifle range, that it super changes them, or, the horrors are so bad that it drives them to it. It's
a decade and a half of trying to get the right help and not having success.
Exactly. At some point you go, I keep hitting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And then it's almost like the VA gaslights you. And that's probably, and it's like, no,
and if they have
not
PTSD,
important.
Then that means they're hitting those emotional flashbacks. They're getting shame spirals, and that's usually what will precipitate
for
that
sure.
kind of
Absolutely.
that kind of thinking that follows. Yeah.
Ask any like, I don't want to say, I hate using the word influencer, but guys like Sean Ryan, DJ Shipley, Nick Freitas. Yeah. From the veteran, and I think this is especially true in the veteran community, is that
I like Sean Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, he's Navy, but he's a SEAL, so
we'll forgive him.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's talked about his own struggles, and I mean, talk about somebody who has gone both sides. Had a pretty wild life and wild stories. You know, I think the main thing that they talk about is the easiest way to kill a man is to take away his purpose. So a lot of guys that, especially like your senior enlisted, you know, they retire and it goes, okay, we've got this build up, this big ceremony. Cool. All right. Now I'm home. I don't know what I'm doing. And, you know, the wife's not listening to me when I scream at her to get off, you know, Sergeant Major's grass. And, you know, you go into the corporate world and it's like, okay, well, you're Mr. So-and-so or you're Bill.
The peon. Yep.
Yeah, you're not.
You're starting all over.
You know, you may have tripled your income, but nobody cares that you used to be whatever. You know, if you unsheath the knife hand and tell somebody that, you know, you're going to gouge out their eyeballs and quote,
you're being
Full Metal Jacket.
HR.
Yeah, that's an HR conversation, and you're gambling your house. It's just a unique kind of experience that I can't really explain. It's like there's people who have been through that. You know, you've got the good spouses that are also familiar. I mean, they get a taste of it. So I mean, it's a lot more than, you know, your normal layperson, but you know, it's still it's still super awkward when people come up and they go, "Oh, thank you for your service," because I really don't know what to say.
Every time.
You know, I and don't get me wrong,
he's good with it. I want to run and hide. I'm the one that wants out of there.
Like I said, don't get me wrong. I super appreciate the sentiment. So one of the things that I usually respond with is like, "Thanks for paying the bill every April." And I take that. You know, there was a time that, so my father worked for Cummins Engine Company in sales. So he was always up and down the West Coast and Hawaii. That was kind of his territory. So he worked out this deal with his boss that instead of flying out on a Monday and flying back on a Friday, he says, I can kind of work my way up the coast. Once I get up to like, you know, Portland, Washington area, my son is active duty at Fort Lewis and my grandson is up there. I can take that Friday and the follow on Monday and I can get 2 extra days if you will pay for, you know, Saturday and Sunday, like my per diem and my rental car, and we save on the flights. And his boss is like, well, that pencils out. Cool. So dad would get to spend the weekend up with me. And so one of the times he was like, hey, you know, I kind of wrap up my day on Friday. I can get, you know, I finish up at like 2:00 or something like that. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll get you a pass to get on base, and we'll bring you into the Special Forces compound. And I worked up at the headquarters building, and so I asked the group command sergeant major, I said, hey, my dad's coming to visit. Do you mind? I'd love to introduce you to him. You've been super cool to me, you know, love you to death. And of course, Sergeant Major Vic Allen is, you know, from North Carolina, just, oh, hell yeah, come on, bring him in. Like, sure, I got you. And I'm like, all right, cool. It's going to be about 30 minutes or so. He goes, yeah, cool. So he comes in, you know, I kind of show my dad the building, and, you know, my dad's kind of got this look on his face like, am I allowed to be here? It's
a weird experience as a civilian.
And so we get to, so I walk in, I'm like, Sergeant Major, this is my dad. Dad, this is, you know, Command Sergeant Major. And, you know, he's like, he hops up. I'm damn glad to meet you. Here, come on here. Sit down. He's like, take a seat in the chair in my desk. And so we're, you know, and that was after like he showed him like his office, and we took him around the headquarters building. It was like a, you know, kind of his personal tour. And, you know, by the top enlisted guy in the unit. And then he's like, here, you know, sit down at my desk. I'll show you. Clicks on the laptop a couple of things, and he pulls up, you know, one of these videos, and it's showing, you know, the like the CQB, so your door kicking, snatch and grab type stuff, you know, little bird helicopter chasing a car, cutting it off, guys jump off and, you know, snatch a dude up, throw him in a Humvee, and go off somewhere
got
else.
the VIP tour. That's not fair.
Yeah. So he's watching all of this stuff, and Sergeant Major's just narrating. He's like, okay, so here, watch these guys. They fast rope onto the moving train. They go down inside, and then the guy flies along the train, and the sniper just starts picking dudes off inside. And this is all like simunitions and things like that. And it was an exercise, so that's why they had the cameras in there. And then he goes, yeah, here's some like the early GoPro cameras view, and like the ISR feeds and everything like that, as far as the capabilities. And my dad just kind of sitting there going like, oh my God, wow, this is pretty wild. And and then of course my dad's kind of graciously like, hey, like, I've taken up you've got work to do. I know it's kind of rounding out the end of your day. And we spent probably about an hour and a half or so. Sergeant Major reaches into his pocket and goes to shake my dad's hand. Well, it's got a command sergeant major's challenge coin in there. And he was like, thanks for supporting your son, and this, that, and the other. And I'm kind of looking at my dad going, asshole, I don't even have one of those coins. Like, what a dick. So the first time I come back, so Sergeant Major is explaining like what you do with the challenge coin. Like, someone will drop a challenge coin, and then if you don't have a coin of your own from somebody of a higher rank, like, you have to buy them a beer or the next round or whatever it is. So next time I go home, my dad's telling like, my brother's got some friends over, and different family members from my stepmom's side, and kind of recounting that. And all of a sudden my dad opens up his wallet, pulls out the coin, and drops a challenge coin on the patio table. And I'm like, he dick, I don't have one of those. But I remember my father saying, sitting down with that with Sergeant Major Allen, he says, I have never been so proud to be a member of the tax-paying public. He goes, you could have doubled my taxes, and I would have gladly paid that, after seeing that type of stuff. And that was one of the times I was like, all right, Dad really thinks I'm doing some pretty awesome stuff. And in full disclosure, I was a support guy. I was an analyst. So I don't want any confusion that I was like some ninja commando Green Beret guy, but we were fortunate enough that
they can't do without intel. So communication, they need all those things.
So the cool thing about that is they're kind of like the tactical teachers if you look at their overall mission. And so what did they do is they reach out on the practice guys or on the support guys to practice on. So they'll like,
I'm going to grab a cat before she does something regrettable.
Of course. Yeah.
We're walking around a pile of dog at my feet. Say hello now. Now that you're here, say hello. Oh. Show everybody your little goblin face. Yeah.
Remind me what kind of cat that is.
She's a Persian. And now she's stepping on my soundboard. Oh, we're going to have fun.
Yeah. My dad adopted 2 Persians. They got the little smushed faces, and then their fur is super soft and like little tumbleweeds.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, it was, so going back to, the Special Forces mission is, they teach, your local, resistance or guerrilla force to overthrow an oppressive government.
Yeah.
And so so what they do is, I'm from, okay, quick side thing. That just reminded me of something. This is like how just dumb things trigger memories. My dad was dating a lady kind of long-term before he got married to my stepmom, before they met. And she had a cat with a big fluffy tail. And so one night she has my dad over at her place. And so she's like, oh, we're going to do the candles and nice dinner and other things that are, I don't want to picture in my mind. So anyway, the cats
go together.
The cat's just kind of hops up on the table and just sort of like is wandering around and, doing the whatever. Well, the cat's tail kind of just wisps right over the top of the flame, catches a cat's tail on fire. The cat doesn't really understand. Dad's girlfriend reacts, and she's like, what are you doing? Come here. Well, the cat's like, I don't want to get in trouble. So the cat runs away, and then all of a sudden the tail has the sensation of like, something's burning. This is bad. So that freaks out the cat even more. So my dad goes, son, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. He goes, this flame, this cat with a flame behind it is running all over the house. Girlfriend's trying to catch it. He goes, this was like a Looney Tunes cartoon. He goes, I just couldn't help but stand back and watch it. Yeah. But yeah, so going back to the support guys is, you'll get a team guy that puts out a team sergeant or a team leader puts out a tasking and says, hey, we're going to the range, we're going to do the shoot house, we're going to do insert training here, and we need support guys to either play bad guys, to be role players, get stuck with needles, for the medics type stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it was so not only would they have us do it, but they would, it was like, okay, now you switch, we're going to teach you how to do these things. So it was really, boy. Yeah. So it was like, okay, we need people to go get stuck with IVs. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, now you're going to stick somebody with an IV. And so that was.
No, not on the laptop. Thank you.
So a lot
the joys of live.
Yeah. So that was just a lot of, really, really good training and fond memories. And I try to focus a lot on that, because there's
absolutely,
and it really comes down to who you surround yourself. And I've had leaders in the military and even, the civilian world, if you want to call it that I would walk on broken glass with bloody stumps to help them. There's even a smaller, probably, count on one hand, the people that it's like, okay, I will follow you through that door, even if I know that certain death is on the other side, like I'll go, so it's like, these are the people. And then there's the people of, all right, if we need to go storm the gates of hell and go snatch up Lucifer himself, like, all right, here are the boys that I want with me.
Yeah.
And so those bonds and stuff are there. It's incredibly, important. But then also how just, garbage leadership can absolutely destroy a person.
That it can. Yeah, that it can. And just have overall hostile work environment, which I'm feeling right now.
The dark humor in me is like, I've got a great chicken teriyaki marinade recipe.
Oh God.
Like I said, I'm a horrible person.
So hypnosis actually, it sounds like, worked really fast for you. How many? So I know you said you had the intervention with Dan. That was a 1-session intervention.
Yeah. It was like a,
holy crap,
I'd say probably around 6 hours.
Yeah.
It was definitely a long day. I mean, I got up early to drive down, and it's about a 3-hour drive. And then kind of hung out. We kind of timed it, so it was like, all right, once I get back on the road, it was, I could skirt the Portland traffic, and then by the time I got up into, the Fort Lewis, Tacoma area and up in through downtown Seattle, that rush hour traffic had cleared. So it was, it kind of all worked out. And, well, I can do that too.
Sorry. And then how much intervention did you do with Jim afterwards?
I did, I think probably a handful. It was just more of like, hey dude, I need a quick, touch up. And he'd be like, all right, cool, man. Here, how does tomorrow sound? All right, cool. And it's, all right, headset in, sit on the couch, plug into your phone, and all right, ready, set, go. And it was really cool because, there were times that, like I had space at the house. So Jim would be like, hey, I'm in town for such and such. I'm like, oh, I got the guest rooms. I'm like, stay here. It's no worries. So, it was really, Jim, my relationship with Jim was one where it just seemed like it wasn't even giving and taking. It was just both of us giving.
Yeah. And that's how all the really, best ones are. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why it was just such a devastating phone call when Yang had to call me last year. But I'm thankful that I was one of, it's it's that double-edged sword. It's like, instead of looking at it as, oh my God, why me? It was, I felt,
I get to.
It's almost like you kind of feel honored that I was one of the first people to call. And I mean, in all reality, it was probably just because I was one of the geographically the closest. And
not the Lego tree. Good God. this cat.
You have no idea what those are going to do to a Dyson vacuum in my feet if I step on them.
I just threw away the book. I can't rebuild it. Leave it alone.
Oh, but YouTube and the magic of the internet, you'd be able to find instructions.
No, but it is such an incredible honor to be able to be that person, and for someone who was just so influential to so many people, because he was that way with you, but he was also that way with everybody who was genuine and sincere in who they were.
And I'm glad that I had gone down to the first in-person Performing Hypnosis Summit, because that's where I kind of got to meet a lot of people that
when
we
was that for you?
20,
well, I guess it ramped up. It began.
I think 23 was the.
No, you can't go.
What was online?
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's right.
24 was the first one. Then 25 we just had, and then 26 will be number 3 here in a few weeks.
You're under a month out now, and you'll be. Are you going live this year?
Yes, I kind of. When Jim left the chat, I kind of inherited his spot by proxy. So I was actually on the phone with the hotel yesterday, and so it was definitely pretty. If I hadn't gone the first year, it would have made January kind of strange. But instead, having met people the year prior with Jim, and having been co-hosting Jim's podcast, it made it more of like it was almost like a reunion in a way.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely,
and incredibly healing. Just folks that I remember seeing Grant. He happened to be Sammy's. Yeah, I remember I came up the escalator and Grant was upstairs. I hadn't checked into my room yet because I got in early. And I just put bags down and, Bill Murray Caddyshack, just looked across the room in the lobby there, saw Grant, tears in his eyes, Cinderella's story, it was just a big hug. And it was just one of those hugs where you could feel the authenticity. It was just like, I got you, I'm genuinely happy to see you too. And then we flew back up to Washington State. I took him over to across Stevens Pass into Leavenworth and almost killed us all. But that's another story for another day. But it's, I remember looking, it was after the conference this year, Sunday night, Joe Beth, had extra tickets to the Las Vegas Golden Knights. He was entertaining some professional athletes, and so he had box suites. And he was like, "Hey, dude, I know you're a big hockey fan. Like, come out if you can." So I'm like, "All right, yeah, cool." So Kevin and I drove down there, and I remember just looking out over the arena, looking at all of my surroundings and everything, and I'm like, God, 5 years ago, if you told me that I was going to be here doing this,
right,
I would have told you you're on drugs. And it was a very, very profound moment where I'm not going to say that I got a little bit emotional, but I'm not going to deny it either. But it's just really.
And so we're actually coming up now to a year without Jim. And it's been a weird one. It's really been a weird one.
Yeah.
Because he showed up in so many spaces and places for people.
Mm-hmm.
And to go to those places and to not have him, for some of them, it'll never be the same,
Yeah.
It's really tough.
You've had a chance to, I think you've seen it. We're on the 26th. We're going to be doing an online kind of a special broadcast. We'll invite some people on, share a memory, share some things about, funny story about Jim. It's not intended to be recreating a funeral by any means, but more just celebrating his memory and honoring him in a way that he deserves, and kind of an informal way that he probably would have preferred.
That would have sat with who he was and his humor and his preference of looking at life a little more on the positive end. Yeah.
So will this go? So we're live now, correct? And which platforms are we broadcasting
currently on YouTube and my personal Facebook profile until I can get it moved to the podcast page.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So for the folks that are on YouTube, if you look up the Hypnosis Hero podcast, and on Facebook, if you look at the also the Hypnosis Hero podcast, Performing Hypnosis, there's links and events and stuff created for when we'll go live. So you're welcome to join us. If anybody who's listening, knew Jim or was a fan or has a funny story, let us know, and we can send you a link to join us live.
So that's the 26th.
The 26th, it's going to be 2 p.m. West Coast time. There's a reason for that. That we chose that time. We'll share that, and then when it's 10 o'clock at night in the United Kingdom, so Grant's gonna be severely jet lagged, and I don't feel bad.
Shameless revenge.
So, it's but. Is that your cat or is that my dog that I'm hearing?
No, that is the pug under my feet that I can't escape. Some people had kids, and for whatever reason, I chose to have a lot of animals instead. And my husband calls me Dog Lisi because wherever I go,
that poor dog just being abused. Just
It's a rough life, man. And then on the other end, we've got a pit bull shepherd. She's chewing a bone that she kiped from the pug.
Right.
But anywhere I go, there's a trail of 3 dogs and now 2 cats, because why not?
Velcro animals.
That's right.
And so, but it's I kind of wanted to circle back. It just kind of popped into my head again. That kind of how I got into the counseling and stuff like that was a neighbor of mine who did 2 tours in Iraq. He recognized what was going on with me, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I had to go get my head right. I got blown up, and I was struggling with a whole bunch of stuff, and because he was like, oh, you got to do this, and I'm giving him like every excuse under the sun, and he's like, all right, dude, I'm just gonna kind of get real with you, and he goes, do you want to see your kids graduate high school? You want to see your daughter get married?"
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, well, okay. And he was like, this is what a very senior, respected leader told him, who he then, kind of relayed to me, and I held him in a very, very high regard.
And it really puts it in perspective, because if you don't start sooner, that's the reality.
Yeah. And what's encouraging is, kind of not a shameless plug. I'm not using this particular company's product, but Nick Koumalatos was hope I didn't butcher his last name, but he was I want to say it was like a MARSOC raider, or like a Marine, recon, Marine Corps special operations. And he was doing a video ad for Core Med, so the testosterone therapy. And he was like, yeah, here's, like, the VA's not going to give it to you. They're going to give you like some garbage protocol. You're going to go like up, down, up. It's just going to be a mess. But he goes, I noticed all of these things that I'm experiencing right now. And he's listing every single symptom, characteristic, all that stuff. And I'm sitting at my desk watching this screen, and I instantly transformed into Ron White, naked on a beanbag eating Cheetos, going, I have got every single one of those.
I love that story.
I went to, So I called them and they were like, okay, well, here's the blood work that you can get done, like the tests that we need to have so that, your primary care can do that. And so I get the results back, and, for example, like the normal levels for testosterone in men are between,
so that's maybe something I'm not familiar with, but does having PTSD and trauma actually do that for men? Is that it impacts testosterone?
Yeah, there's that.
I didn't
There's
know
also head injuries. So if you ring your bell pretty good,
that. Okay.
And then also, what's it called? The like explosive concussions from,
Yeah.
it could be from fireworks. It could be from, doing dynamic like
Don't you
explosive
do it?
entry.
Sorry, keep going.
Like, don't
You
jump.
never come
You got
here.
so
Why
much
are
to
you
live
doing
for.
this? Why are you doing this to me today? Let's not do this today. I can breathe.
You're like doing all those things just to keep the cat from going.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, not my shoes. But yeah, they're finding a lot of stuff like, if you hit your head really hard, guys that are doing like explosive breaching, being in the room with flashbangs and,
Well, it makes
stuff
sense,
like
doesn't
that.
it? Yeah, no, I
It's
get
like
it now. I
it's like
didn't
the
get it at
concussion just
first.
goes, it just goes right through your body.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. So the nervous system takes such a hit that it gets stuck in that place of why bother to produce correct hormones for survival when we're not surviving, right? If the body thinks it's going to die because of the shock,
and then
it has no need for testosterone, does it?
Well, it was also a combination of that, and I went from running 3 miles a day and 2 hours in the swimming pool and
right,
all the running, jumping, climbing trees in the military, falling out of airplanes with style and creativity. If you've never experienced vertical flight, I encourage you to do it, because when you exit the airplane, the mortgage doesn't matter. You want to talk about living in the moment. And I joke that it's only a suicide attempt until the parachute opens. And if you do a tandem jump, you've got somebody who's pot committed as well, to not do the human lawn dart thing. And it's one of the most profound and beautiful and peaceful things while you're hurtling to the earth at 100 and something odd miles an hour.
My husband hurt his body doing some of those jumps, I'm sure of it. But every time I ask him, he would still do it again.
My mom did a civilian, she did the, like the free fall tandem jump on her 60th birthday. And she goes, I wish I did it 20 years ago. And I said, Mom, 20 years ago when I did it, I'm going to quote Dennis Leary, that in your eyes, I was an 18-year-old kid who didn't know shit about shit and I needed to pull up my pants.
Yeah.
But, lo and behold, it was exactly how I described everything would be. She was like, okay, yeah, I did it. That was enough for me. But, it was, so going, so anyway, we were,
my husband,
in the military,
my husband did airborne school, and
oh yeah,
he would love to do it all over again if he could. If his body would let him.
Airborne school was just one of those things that, like, you check the box to run around and fall down for 2 weeks, and then it's 3 days of just I learned in airborne school that your body can shit clap the crust of the earth super hard and live. But it was, that was, I can't imagine doing it now. Well, I mean,
no.
I'm like, I would need
part of me.
I need a lot of nap time after jump week, but it was, just, some of the stuff like in the plane, you always tend to have a good time on jumps. Things happen. But going back to the testosterone therapy, it was, the operational training tempo and just the activity level to, then I got out, I started flying a desk. And so just like your body goes, oh, we don't need all that adrenaline and all these things. So we're just going to power down. Well, then you get the brain fog, you get the memory loss, the questioning your sanity, weight gain. I don't have the body of a Greek god anymore. It's more of a dad bod. And, it's, all of those things kind of play a role. And then it was, I'm not a fan of needles. It's not that I won't get a tattoo. I just don't know what I want permanently on my body. I go do the IV therapy. So getting an IV isn't a horrible experience for me. I'm just not going to look, but I can give somebody,
there was something that would help with that.
I can give somebody else an IV because I'm like, I can't hurt me. You're the one on the receiving end of the pokey bit.
Yeah. See, that's actually different than fear of needles because it's more about the discomfort than it is the needle itself.
So kind of a trick. Special Forces medic shared this with me. He goes, when they swab your arm with the little alcohol wet wipe type thing, fan the hell out of it. Like, make sure that it is dry, because when you pierce the skin, that capillary action just wants to suck any of the moisture from the rubbing alcohol in, and that's what stings. Now, if you got someone who doesn't know what they're doing and they just blow out the back of your vein, like, well, that's problematic too. But there's this, so with the testosterone therapy, one of the things you have to do is like donate blood and get a lot of red blood cell count. It's increased. And so, I'm on a protocol to, it's like once a month I've got to go in, and it's a blood donation and they throw it away. But there's this little Vietnamese lady, Miss Chow, at the Seattle VA, God bless her. And I walk in and she's got to be like 3 feet tall. I'm super exaggerating this, but just this tiny little like angel of a woman who, she calls me back, and she's like the Vietnamese nail lady. Like, oh, Mr. Bay, so good to see you. Welcome, come right this way. You come sit down, and which arm? And I'm totally doing the accent like horrible, but she's like, the first time that she drew my blood, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, she doesn't speak English. I hardly understand the words that are coming out of her mouth. Like, okay, please don't like screw this up. And, admittedly, prejudged, I should repent for that. But I'm doing it now and giving her credit. So she's kind of like, and I'm like squeezing my fist for all it's worth. And she's like, which arm? I'm like, look, I'll make you a deal. I'm going to give you a garden hose to shoot at. Your job is to not miss. And she's like, okay. Now she starts screwing with me.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw this on YouTube, and I done this once or twice. We'll see how it works. And of course, I'm going like,
that's a woman after my own heart.
There's about a 50-50 probability that this is an accurate statement. And
yeah.
And so,
oh God,
she's like, okay, make fist and ready, 1, 2, 3, and then I hear click, and she goes, okay, all done. And I'm like, I barely felt anything. So now I go in there and I'm like, Miss Chow, what's up? How are you doing? Oh, I'm at the bay right here. Come sit down. And I'm like, all right, send it, lady. Let's go. And she's just so smooth, so awesome. It's amazing. The IV clinic at Seattle VA is absolutely wonderful. Great folks down there. And so, it was, giving myself the testosterone injections. Like, you have to give yourself a shot. It's like super not natural. The first one was really weird. And then after that, I was like, okay, now the second one, not so bad. Now I'm feeling so much better. And then it's like every other day I look forward, like, I get to take my shot today. I'm not afraid of giving myself the injections now. Am I going to give myself an IV? Probably not.
Hopefully, but in good circumstances, no.
I'm like, I can grab an inch of, pinch a little, grab a skin and put a little insulin needle in there and send her home. But it's really identifying like good doctors to work with. Yeah. In having somebody who's willing to not really like step out, color outside the lines, but finding someone who goes, I recognize what you need and I'm going to help you get there.
And having that humanity. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just, kind of go, admittedly, I'm going to go on my little soapbox for a second, that our current Western healthcare system has turned commercial. Oh, Doctors no longer practice medicine. Yeah. They basically have an association matrix where they go, okay, we're going to line up symptoms with this. Here's your treatment. Go. Not let's look at the blood work. I remember
they don't even run a full panel anymore. You have to pay extra for a full panel to actually get insight as to what's happening.
I'm looking at the date. It's the 23rd. So it was a couple years ago today I stormed out. Like, I almost came to blows with an endocrinologist. I said, hey, I've had this prescription for this. If I can get it through the VA community care and I don't have to come out of pocket, this has been helpful. I've had like 2 years on this. Oh, well, your blood work says that your testosterone levels are fine. And I'm like, yes, because I'm just coming off of it. I've got like 4 more days of medication left. And she's like, oh, well, you're going to have to come off of it for like 3 months. Then we have to test you. And if your testosterone levels are low, you have to wait X amount of time. Then we have to test you again. Then we can diagnose you. Then we can do. Then I was like, I'm going to go play in traffic by then.
So let's have you get worse so that we can, substitute for something that's not going to help you get better.
And I'm like, I looked at her and I said, what if I was a cancer patient? You've got to be like, well, we've got to cure your cancer and then you got to recatch cancer again so we can resume your treatment. I said,
if you're in Canada, I hear the going prescription these days is, have you tried dying? Because it's faster.
That's the solution with the veterans up there. And so I remember she goes, well, what's your, so, well, how did you get diagnosed? And I said, well, I sent in my initial blood test results from when I first was diagnosed. And so it's like every place uses what numbers are convenient. So your traditional, air quote, normal ranges are around 350, maybe 400 to 900 or 1,000. I think it's like milligrams per something measurement. I'm not sure. Anyway, my number was like scraping the bottom of the 300s, 310, something like that. And I was like, I'm 38, 39 years old, and I've got the testosterone levels of like an 85-year-old man. Like, I should not be down this far. And she's like, oh, well, you're still in the normal range. I was like,
yeah,
by how?
for your sick care in the normal range. I don't go by those.
and I looked at her, and again, this is where my dark humor came in, and I ended up just kind of beating feet out of there. But I looked at her and I said, what if we put the pulse ox reader on the end of your finger, and then I waterboard you or hold your head underwater to where you can't breathe and you stop struggling and everything, and then I pull you up, you get a couple of breaths, and then I just lather, rinse, repeat until your pulse ox goes down to like 93%. And I'm like, well, she's not dead yet. And then it just kind of, I was like, she's like, so what are you trying to threaten me? And I said, no, I'm drawing a parallel. I said, if you had your oxygen saturation at like this minimal amount, but you're still alive, that's kind of what you're telling me that I'm at with the testosterone stuff, even though I'm telling you here is the path to success. Like, this is what has been working. Here is the recipe. Yeah. I just need you to kind of pick this up and continue mission.
Just help.
And you're telling me no. And then she was like, well, you're starting to get hostile. And I just finally went, she's like, do I need to call security? I'm like, you know what?
No.
It sounds like this is just an effing waste of my time. And she looked me dead in the eye and went, well, it sounds like it's a waste of my time too. And I'm like, if I had not worked with Jim or Dan, assuming that we had the ability
things
to
would
meet
be going
and everything,
in a different direction.
Oh yeah, Brian would have been a convicted felon for just beating a medical professional with their own shoes. But I remember it was kind of towards the end of the COVID stuff. So I remember I just threw the door open and I walked back out into the lobby and I dropped the little mask that they give you.
Yeah. And
this middle-aged woman is like, oh, excuse me, sir. And I kind of turned.
Can't even.
And I just kind of had these like, just eyes were just, I'm ready to do horrible things. And she goes, you dropped your mask. And I remember hearing myself just audibly growling at her. And I turned and just walked off. And so the doors to the medical facility, they've got the outer doors, like you see it like a grocery store that slide back and forth. And then you've got a little foyer, 1 or 2 steps, and then you've got inner doors. So I'm coming from the inside going out, and the little sensor doesn't sense me fast enough. And I'm thinking, oh, well, these are like the push doors that you go out like a normal office lobby. And I remember I just like arms up, pushed, just blew through them. And then I heard like the doors making expensive noises. I'm like, oh, ruh-roh, these aren't supposed to do that. So I kind of like set them back on their tracks. And then the little proximity sensor is like, oh, these are opening and closing. I'm like, all right, they're operating as they should be as far as I'm concerned. And I went home and called the patient advocate, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what the hell happened, but this is just like, this was not okay. And
and you're at the point where you can laugh at it now, but for other people who had not had the help, the interventions, who didn't know about, Jim or Dan, they might be in a totally different situation.
Well, and also, how many times have people just had the door slammed in their face, slammed in their face, slammed in their face, and it's like, okay, you need to talk to this person, and it's almost, I've gotten kind of the vibe, if you will, that it's like some providers kind of look at, I've got this superiority complex where it's, I've got the solution to your problem, but if you don't dance monkey dance, I'm just going to deny it and go, ha 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 ha. I've got, and I remember the medical doctor. So there's the nurse practitioner, the ARNP that I go see, and then there's the MD that's kind of oversees, if you will. And so the nurse practitioner, that doc was like, yeah, I'm all about testosterone. I can refill, I can order the prescription. The MD steps in, so I get on the messaging with him, and I'm like, hey, like, what's the deal? You canceled my prescription. And he goes, yeah, well, I want you to go do this. I'm not a fan of testosterone therapy. And I said, well, tell me why you're not a fan. And he goes, well, I just don't know a whole lot about it. And I went, so if you don't know a whole lot about it, how can you draw the conclusion that you're not a fan and that this is not a good, course of action for me? And he didn't have an answer for me. And I was like, okay, you're fired.
Yep.
But I mean, it's like I said, you get enough people just slamming doors in your face, someone's just going to go, yeah, I'm going to take my ball and go home. I don't want to play anymore. And, so and then when you're looking at, I'm trying to pick how I want to say this. There's an element that I try to treat people with kindness and give them a benefit of the doubt. But then also you're kind of keeping track of, being on the lookout for like red flags. Not that I'm looking for them or actively seeking them out. I just want to be able to observe them should they come up. And it's like, I'll give anybody the level of respect, and I'll be nice and I'll be professional until it's time to not be. When tact and diplomacy have failed, it's like it's go time.
Concern is, for the people who don't have that ability to make that shift because their nervous system is stuck, or maybe they had prior trauma to service. And so they're maybe more of a fawn responder. They tend more towards a freeze rather than, okay, I'm going to self-advocate and let them know where to go and fire the doctor and hire somebody else. There are a lot of people who are just kind of stuck, I think, in people pleasing. And so they don't realize that there are other options, and they don't speak up for themselves. So they don't get what they need.
Well, there's a lot of that. And then there's, I think it kind of coincides with, after a while, you just, if that lifestyle is all it becomes familiar, and you get beaten down to the point where you're like, hey, I don't want to get my hopes up anymore because I can't take
another disappointment.
Another disappointment, something being, slammed in my face. It's another failure. I'm familiar with just this being how it is.
Yeah.
So I'm reluctant to change, even though someone goes, oh, trust me, because with the VA system, you're calling into like call centers. You're not, fortunately in my situation, like the IV clinic, I've got a direct line I can call and go, hey, can I switch, 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock? And they're like, yeah, sounds good. Cool. Point, click, done. See you later today. Or I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to be 20 minutes late. That's great. But when you're like, I've got to go try to manage healthcare by committee, you don't get that one-on-one thing. You've got to, if you got a unique situation, it's like every person you talk to, you've got to go start at square one and tell them the whole backstory. And then they go, let me try to get an answer on that and get back to you.
And then there's no communication beyond, beyond that office, beyond that border.
Oh
So if you're
yeah,
having, more complex care,
I
those limbs are never communicating with each other.
I'm absolutely convinced that that middle management exists in the VA medical and a lot of corporate stuff is to be the cannon fodder and the insulation that shields upper level like senior executive management from any type of responsibility or accountability, and they just get to go have meetings to schedule other meetings, for lack of a better term, like I called, stroke one another off and be like, we're super awesome with our 6 and 7 figure salaries.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can just report to our board of investors and board of directors like we're star spangled awesome, and it's like, no.
Jeez. Yeah. Brutal.
But so what do you have planned for the holidays?
Nothing. It's glorious. My spouse will probably keep the wood stove burning. If we're lucky, he will pick up a prime rib on the way home, and we will survive off that for the next couple of days and just be in our own little quiet bubble of, being military
if he's a
moving.
red-blooded American, he should be picking up red meat.
Yeah, he is, but he's in the recruiting office and he never gets out on time, and he works an hour away from home. So it's a question of timing more than anything else. I didn't have time today either, but and then I realized, today's the 23rd. Yeah,
I'm like, nobody's joining the military 3 days before Christmas.
Tell that to his command, who's had him in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 12 hours a day. The man doesn't leave the office until 7 p.m. And then he's got an hour drive home. He's lucky if he's eaten anything. He gets home and he just melts into the couch or the computer chair, or these days bed, because he's so tired.
Yeah, I'm like...
And they're pouring over lists of people who they've already contacted, who are not interested, who have their mind on other things. It's just ridiculous.
People just start responding to those texts with Oklahoma, pineapple, I do not consent.
I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah, it was, it's just, I mean, a lot of people, the military gets a lot of like bad press.
Yeah. It does. It really does. There's a lot of good that came from his career. His career really has sustained our family. I got a fabulous education. Our health is good. We have good health coverage. We have so many benefits. When he first began, he has been military since I've met him. We met online playing World of Warcraft.
Oh, as you do.
Hence how a Canadian ends up, planted here.
Right.
And we really lived in poverty for the first little while because we both left really unhealthy marriages in the most codependent way possible. So we both started out with nothing, left the exes everything. And, we went through the whole parental alienation and issues there, and then raised a child with a lot of mental health challenges, and for better for worse, I walked out with complex PTSD as a result. Not the Army veteran. No, that's not the one that's got PTSD. It's the wife.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It is. It really is. But I'm also grateful for all of that, because I wouldn't be who I am. And so now I do things like IEMT, which is integral eye movement technique. I don't know if you've had a chance to try that, or did you even pursue EMDR in the process of your healing?
Oh no, you're doing a lot of alphabet stuff.
IEMT it has similarities to EMDR. Now, when I had complex PTSD, I was already a clinical hypnotherapist, but you're so lost in your own sauce. It doesn't matter what you know or what skills you have. You can haven your way to bed every single night. It's not going to fix it. And so I did actually get therapy, and I got help. And through the process, I looked for someone who did EMDR. And while we're doing EMDR, I'm looking at my practitioner and I'm telling him, "You've got me in the sweet spot for trance. Throw me some positive suggestions, will you?"
Yeah.
You've already had me relive all the trauma. You may as well give me something good out of this. He's looking at me like I'm...
You should be paying me for training.
He's looking at me like I'm from another planet. I'm like, I'm a hypnotist. Trust me. Just add these things, please. And he wouldn't. In any case, that was really dangerous for me. EMDR was helpful, but what was happening was I was not grounded or safe when I was leaving the office. And then I'm going to get in my car. 3 times I was nearly hit. And one time I nearly hit somebody else trying to get out of the goddamn parking lot from the appointment. So actually, after the little bit of relief that I got, I stopped and I said, there has to be something better. And it's like, how do I integrate this with hypnotherapy? And so I started searching around. And that's when I found the trainer that I got, which is Matt Kendall, who trains IEMT, which was made by Andrew T. Austin out of the UK. And what I love about it is it's got the similarities in that we're using the mechanism of the eye movement, but then I also get to lace hypnosis in a way that's really powerful. But then also my person's not having to relive anything. It's content free. So we are taking anything attached to the memory, any emotion, any patterns of behavior, and we're just changing the neural pathways in real time. And for the people that it works for, it's life-changing. So I love that I get to do that. And the most common thing I hear is, why aren't you doing this for the military? And it's because, honestly, I don't even know where to begin. But I would love to do this for more first responders. But that whole journey has brought me to this, basically, which is how I understand so much of what you've been through with trauma. Thankfully, I didn't have to go through the VA, so I didn't have that side of it. My husband wasn't deployed. Well, that's a whole other thing. That I have to deal with, and that's not been fun. That's been challenging.
It's not, and really, I think one of my saving graces. And this is not a political endorsement. This isn't. I'm speaking factually. So, love him or hate him. President Trump signed the Mission Act into effect, which established the VA's community care system. So, for example, like if I wanted to go get chiropractic treatment, 65 miles one way, so that could be, an hour to 2 hours in traffic, depending on conditions. And, that's a 130-mile round trip to go get crunch crack. And that's if they've got availability versus.
And then you ruin it by sitting in the car all the way home.
I'm like, the VA contracts with a civilian provider and says, hey, pop down the street. So without that structure, I would not be able to get the medical, just the routine medical care, the chiropractic, the massage, the different things. I mean, I still have to kind of play Mother May I with the VA for everything. And they kind of dole it out like a stingy, kindergartner, sharing their toys, but it's, excuse me, it is what it is. It's better than it was. And then the lady who did my disability claim, as soon as I found out, it was, I think, right before Thanksgiving last year, I called her business partner and said, hey, I succeed, touchdown, where everything's good. She calls me like an hour later and she goes, hey, I'm sorry, I've kind of been off the radar. She goes, President Trump got reelected. I just got appointed to his administration. I've been rewriting, revised drafts on VA policy on how to make things better, because, she's 20 something years of seeing how, the shortfalls and stuff. And she's like, I speak to Doug Collins like weekly. And she goes, I'm going to go spend like 5 hours briefing the president on this stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's the person that I want in my corner. And we're starting to see changes. Things are moving a little bit more efficiently. So, it's still the speed of government, but, we're headed in the right direction, and forward progress, no matter how small, is still forward progress. So, I'm cautiously optimistic there.
So President Trump is the one thing that Jim and I did not agree on. And when I was delightfully singing, that's my president, and I was happy, he was never more disgusted with me. And it's like, I like the man that goes to the office and I know that he's working. I can see that things are happening. And that's, rather than being gaslit by someone behind a desk saying he's sharp as a tack and doing absolutely nothing, and the country is going downhill in front of my eyes. I don't like being gaslit, so no.
Well,
yeah.
Here's how I describe it. Is there, anybody can have their criticisms of anybody, and like, if I was going to say Trump
to be perfect. I don't need perfection.
Trump does the T-Rex arms and kind of repeats himself. Like, if that's the worst thing about him, like, okay, I'll take that all day long. But I look at it, if I'm ever accused of a crime and I need to hire a criminal defense attorney, I don't care what he does on his personal time. I don't care what his...
Get the job done.
Yeah, I don't care if he's been married 4 times or whatever, if he's on 5 businesses. I'm hiring you to do a job. We're not out there to be drinking buddies. And if you're effective and you can get things done, great.
And I don't require perfection. I've never been a person who requires perfection from other people. And I find it so weird that we look to different people in the government, in Hollywood, and we expect perfect. It's like, whoever said they were supposed to be role models?
Well, it's you're doing a job that there is, it's super in depth. And you need a lot of advice, somebody who is, the United States, for not all intents and purposes, but the United States, I think it's fair to say the United States has been referred to commonly as, or the president of the United States has been commonly referred to as the leader of the free world. I'm not like a super fan that, like, we kind of tend to be the world police, but we're also at the same time, we're that melting pot of so many different, cultures and things like that. So to put the responsibility to have all of the answers on a single man's shoulders, it's an unrealistic expectation.
And then you got to think, he's being pitched by people with an agenda all day long. And so it's not just getting the information, it's discerning, okay, what's your take in this? And what's the actual truth? He has to do this with everything. Goodness.
And it's also one of those things where he's quick to go, hey, I appointed this person and it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And he'll own it.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I was disappointed about the Epstein files. I was disappointed that he made a remark that was a little gaslighty, and it's like, are we still talking about this? I was like, yes, Mr. President, we're still very much talking about this. That I was disappointed with. But otherwise, I'm happy with the work that he does in office. And
it's really odd. I'd like to put a little bit of trust, and I'm going to kind of put my caveat there, that he's got access to stuff that we don't. And I'll kind of draw a parallel. We had, I live in the county that I live in is Snohomish County. And so not the current sheriff, but the one before, as soon as he got elected, he came from being one of the sergeants that ran against the sheriff. He won. And a couple of his colleagues had been fired by the previous incumbent sheriff that lost the election. And when he said, I have not promised these 2 deputies to get rehired. What I promised them is I will give them a fair look at their file, because then I will have access to all of the facts, the entire, big picture. Yeah. And if it warrants upholding termination, I'll do that. If it warrants bringing you, overturning it and bringing you guys back, I will. And then he gave a, rather lengthy memo. So on that, my hope is that Trump has either been briefed or has had a chance to review the stuff. And it's like, there's not a whole lot that's going to yield fruit when it comes to releasing everything. Because if you have to keep all of the redactions and stuff there to, the innocent victims, you don't want their names and images and stuff out there. It's like, is that juice going to be worth the squeeze? I don't know. But I think he was also like, look, the guy's dead. You can't go and undo this. We can't put Genie back in the bottle. And, it is horrible. And not to discount the atrocities that may or may not have taken place. It's like, we've got some pretty big fish to fry right now.
Yeah. It wasn't that he couldn't put genie back in the bottle. It was the way that he chose to handle it. And, had he said, you know what, learning what I've learned, I can't approach this in the same way, I would have totally respected that.
Oh yeah.
But the minute I'm gaslit, I am done with the person. Like, I'm just flat out cold done.
And if you ask, I think when it comes to that subject, you ask 10,000 people what he should have done, you're probably going to get 10,000 different answers. Yeah. And I certainly don't. I certainly don't envy the responsibility.
No, neither do I.
I think that we struggle with this in Washington State, and it kind of makes me sad that
I used to live in Washington State. Do you know that?
Oh, what part?
Spokane.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's kind of the Republican Party is we have mail-in voting, and a lot of people that are the conservative, the right side, the Republican voters, they're convinced that the balloting system is corrupt, and so they just go, I'm not going to vote. My vote doesn't count. It doesn't mean anything. It's not even worth licking the stamp, or you don't even need to put a stamp on it. It's not even worth licking the envelope. And I'm kind of sitting there going like, but if you don't vote, the other side wins by default.
Right.
And so we're just, it's like we're so disillusioned that you
I have so little trust in the systems that my mind goes to, if you don't vote, someone else is going to use your name probably. That's where my mind goes. So this was actually my first time. This was my first time voting as an American citizen.
Oh, congratulations.
And I was really freaking happy to vote for President Trump. So love that, hate that about me.
No,
that is what it is.
I think we're trying to move in a direction that, one of the things that I like about him is that, he's a straight shooter. And granted, Bernie
really
Sanders
straight,
was
actually.
like,
the man doesn't drink.
Yeah. And that's one of the cool things that he promotes. And it's like, okay, that's his choice. But it's
neither do I. So I really appreciate that about him. I really do.
There's like, you can tell when he's fired up.
Yeah.
And we all have our good days and bad days. And I mean, imagine if you had the amount of people,
a very highly public bad day.
Well, I mean, he is under such a microscope and being attacked on multiple fronts. And, are there some things that I disagree with him on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have opinions on both sides of the aisle, but I'm generally going to net, fairly right of center. And an attorney that I work for did a great job of explaining it to me. He says, Brian, the population is like a big bell curve. You've got the majority of the people, the bulk of everybody is kind of right on that center.
Yeah.
Hovering left or right, but very, very close to center. And then you've got these outliers that are far left, far right, and those tend to be the loudest people and the most obnoxious. And then everybody who is in the center on one side or the other gets roped in with those yahoos.
Yeah.
And
there are the far right extremes as well. It's it's both. There's extreme on both ends.
Right.
But can you imagine, exactly. Every time the man tries to say something, he's got to be thinking about the various media outlets and how many different ways it's going to be taken out of context for something. You'll see it in all directions, no matter what he says. It's wild.
And the cool thing is that you're starting to see people wake up.
Yeah.
The Mr. and Mrs. Renner. With their deaths, it was like the response was, like what happened to them. And I'm paraphrasing in like very basic stuff. It was like what happened to them was bad. It was a horrific act. And then it was like dude was a critic of mine. And then this type of stuff comes up and sort of, the bad side of the liberal left, where they get super worked up about things. And this is kind of a result. It's almost like saying this person overdosed. It was bad. They had an addiction. Addiction kind of leads to this. And then everybody's like, oh, well, everybody has struggles and you're just, you can't. I'm like, okay, when when do you stop making excuses for people and and stuff like that? And it was like I'm like he's in a no-win situation, because if he acknowledges it and just goes, yeah, that was bad, it's like, oh well, you're just gonna let him, it's like the Mr. Reiner passed, and then all of a sudden we just completely ignore some of those vile and ignorant stuff that he said, and hateful things that he said about the president. And the president still has enough class to go,
He
yeah,
does. Yeah.
this was wrong. We don't condone it. And let the judicial process play out. And it's like, oh, he was too harsh. And then if he doesn't, it's like, oh, well, he was too lenient, and, just walks all over. And
yeah.
So it's like I said, in my life, I try to shield myself from people like that. I'm also not running the country.
Yeah.
If I was, things would change. I'd adopt the Calvin and Hobbes model of I will become ruler and supreme dictator for life.
So we got way off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But PHS is coming. Are you presenting this year?
I am helping to present the whole thing. I'm going to be doing a lot of pointy talky, going,
yeah,
go this way, sit here, corral all the speakers, herd folks into rooms, and between Grant and Sean and I, we're going to try to keep the train on the rails. But yeah, it's going to be a great time. I've got to give Casey a lot of credit. If you guys haven't met her, and the morale officer, Brewster, the dog, he's got an incredible story. But Casey had been just taking training for years, and conference after conference, and studying the craft and everything like that. And then she was able to do her first show. So I'm incredibly proud of her. She's had a handful of shows under her belt so far this year. And, I don't want to say that we pulled the Army recruiter thing on her, but we went, hey, what's the title of your talk that you're going to do this year at PHS? And she's like, oh, I don't know. And I said, how about this as a title, and kind of throw some of these things with your experience of, going from, training to finally just taking that step and getting your show. And she was like, oh my God, that sounds great. I'm like, cool. I think you're on for a Saturday or something. So we kind of used a bit of the Schwartz on her, but.
And so for those who don't know, the Performing Hypnosis Summit is different in terms of hypnosis conferences, because it is really focused on that performative aspect and not just clinical hypnosis or transpersonal hypnosis, but you guys are more about the performative part. But I've heard amazing things where your attendees are showing up, and they can be novice, or they can have been lurking and learning, and finally they're stepping out and getting light of day as a result of attending and working with you guys.
No, so so the performing there, it's a wide spectrum, because there's a lot that goes into it. I think the first year that I was out there, Alan Sands did a presentation on audio, from how you roll your speaker cables. Here's the best practice to use the gaffing tape to put your cables on the floor, cable management, the different types of speakers, how you can use them for, aiming sound, not getting feedback, those types of things, to how you orient everything on stage. I think Joe Beth did a presentation on your marketing, how you can present opportunities to do fundraising for shows where you're not having your client.
That's where he really shines, isn't it? The fundraising aspect. He does a lot of that.
Yeah, and
really great success too.
And it's proven. Kevin Lapine did great talks on just being safe on stage. All of his experience on how he, kind of his road to how he became a 15-year plus Las Vegas headliner. You got the greats like Michael DeShalit. Chris Jones was up there. Chris Jones was on America's Got Talent and kind of runs around the college market. Salish is kind of the god of of the college market and doing shows out there. And it, people ask like, oh my God, well, I don't know if I attended, I don't know like what to say, this group of people. And I'm like, show up and say hi. And if you recognize somebody, hey, you're so-and-so, right? Oh yeah. Hi, I'm such and such. Oh, cool. Welcome.
The thing I've learned about stage and performative hypnotists is that they are socially awkward like the rest of us and possibly more introverted than the rest of us. And I didn't think that at first. I thought you guys all must be extroverted, know how to turn on the charm. And it's like, oh, that's a skill set. Got
yeah.
it.
So the first year I was down there, I knew of Terry Stokes. I knew Terry Stokes Jr. I knew the names.
Yeah.
And I think I
was really happy to get to see a Terry Stokes show this last year at Heartland.
Yeah. So I think I'd been at the hotel a couple hours, and I forget, I was walking with somebody and they were like, oh, here, I'm going to go run over and see if I can find Terry Stokes. And so, of course, he was in the bar having a nice scotch and sat down, like somebody ran off to the restroom. And so he asked me, he's like, oh, so, tell me about yourself. I'm like, oh, Army veteran and such. Used to jump out of airplanes. And he's like, oh, tell me what that's like. And so I kind of just start talking about it. And he's like, okay, so I'm going to use you as a prop in one of my presentations. And I'm kind of like, I'm not sure if I like where this is going, if this is good or bad or
retired Army.
Yeah, no, just tired. And so he says, hey, when you started talking, like I can tell that you're passionate about something, like your face lights up and you get kind of animated and everything. And I was like, oh, sorry, I need to dial back my tism. And he goes, no, like that's one of those things. And so short story long, we don't he does his presentation. I'm not used as a prop or anything, but it was just a fun conversation. He wasn't like, it wasn't like he met me and he just held his hand out to be like, all right, thou shalt kiss the ring. Not a lot of ego. And I think the biggest selling point that I would put to anybody is we're not selling anything. Mm-hmm. Jeff Bennick did a phenomenal talk on, I think it was like using Q Labs to design all the sound and audio and effects for the production to queue up with lighting and things like that. And he goes, this is what can be done. If you ever get a big like theater and they have all of the specs and everything, if you want to work with me, like I'm available. I'm in Amsterdam. We'll figure out the time difference one way or another. We can hop on Zoom or any of the video chats. And he goes, I'm available to you to answer questions. If you want me to create something for you, like there will be a charge. It'll be significantly reduced from what I normally do, but I want to help you out. But there was no buy my products, take my training, just in your face, high pressure stuff. Yeah. And this year, for example, one of my really good friends, Brent Arnold from, he owns Templar Financial. So it's his wealth management firm. He's Navy veteran. We like him anyway. After the football game, I did not hear the end of it. Some memes I sent him did not age well. And I think I earned every bit of what he sent back to me. But one of the things that I think is going to be bring a lot of value is he's going to be talking about, advanced business planning or advanced financial planning for any stage in your business, whether you're just getting started or you're like, hey, I've got to tax shelter some money, how you can leverage your business to maximize the full efficiency of it to get the most out of it. Because, for example, it's like, okay, you're going to, the PHS is going to be, quote, a business trip because you're taking training. There's going to be something of a business write-off. Well, come in a couple days early, stay a couple days later, turn that into a mini vacation on either side and write the whole thing off. Yeah. And then just some making people aware of some different products or things like that to, offset their taxable income and things like that are going to make money for them, while they're sleeping.
And that's education that all hypnotists need overall. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping next year that we could get an attorney that specializes in, entertainment law. Like, here's how to write contracts. Here's how to set things up. Because what I've found, working in, the legal industry is it tends to be, once I broke away from family law, is you find, especially in the trades, you got your contractors, you got your builders, you've got all these people. They're great at what they do, but they're horrible at the administrative portion. And it's like, what do you mean it costs $1,500 to do a business plan and an operating agreement and all that other stuff? And they're like, no, I don't need that. I just need to pay a couple $100 to Secretary of State, incorporated myself, Viola. And then 9 months later, they go, okay, so L&I's coming after me for $180,000. It's like, because you screwed something up, and it's going to cost you, $10,000 to $15,000 for us to make a lot of that go away.
Right.
So it's giving people tools in their toolbox, marketing, photographer, how can you delegate these different things, increase the value of the product of your show or your service, if you're doing hypnotherapy. So that way you can generate that revenue to pay those people. And guess what? You became an entrepreneur and you just created 5 jobs. You gave someone else the ability to utilize their talents to put food on their table and roof over their heads. That's what gets the economy going.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Again, it's all networking. Casey, if you ask Casey, she'll tell you that she reached out to me, a handful of other people. She's going, I can't get the audio synced. I need 3 things for my show. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Let's figure out how we can get the stuff created, email over. I think Joe Beth he went to Heartland last year with
that's right.
Christina, I think. And something happened and they were like, hey, can you do like 3 post-prom, parties or something for high schools? Because they're like, all right, cool, we're going to go out there. And it was a couple hours drive and they're putting their show together in the car. Joe Beth forgot left his iPad at home because he wasn't planning on
working,
performing. So he gets on a Zoom with Jeff Benink and they're like, all right, here, let's do the iTunes and drop everything into his iPhone. And it was okay. So it's a lot of, I think the emphasis of PHS is collaboration. And, the cliche, all ships rise with the tide, and, many hands make light work, but, it really is. So,
because otherwise it's a very weird industry where everybody's just working in their own individual bubble. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, and the scarcity mentality is, I don't want to say it's a necessary evil. Like, I get it, why people want to kind of preserve and not just willy-nilly go throw out hypnosis training to anybody, because it takes one person to do something stupid and it ruins the opportunity for so many people. But at the same time, I think really what Jim's kind of like the big picture goal or the objective that he was trying to achieve, besides dating Taylor Swift, was creating a culture, and not so much a team. And I hate using the word family, because if it's like, oh, we're all like family here, that's like the biggest red flag to go leave that employer. But it's create, I think, just a culture and an environment where you have a group of people that, we want everybody to succeed, and there's plenty of work out there. And if we can be ambassadors of the craft, and I know I'm going to start sounding like all Masonic, but really ambassadors of the craft, representing the industry well, we might be able to revive things as far as opportunities. And I think it was earlier this year, I think I just pulled ChatGPT and I'm like, what's the percentage of the population that are performing hypnotists? And it was like 0.00001%. And I'm like, and then take how many voting age people of like 80 something odd million, that's a lot of opportunity that's out there just in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had, I think Jaime came up from New Zealand last year. We had Jason O'Callaghan, the wedding hypnotist from Ireland, who is just absolutely crushing it over there. Same with Alexi, or Alex the Great. Jeff Bennick, always a character, again from the Netherlands, wonderful guy. He came over to the U.S. for I think a couple of conferences and kind of a quasi tour. We were able to have him on
at Heartland and got to see him at Michigan. Yeah.
Yep. I think it was right after Michigan that we had him on Hypnosis Hero. So that was a ton of fun. Always a pleasure to talk to him. And it's just I enjoy what I do. And this year, now that I've got a couple of different things off my plate, I'm looking at hitting 2026 pretty hard. Hoping that I don't have to relocate too terribly far from where I'm at now, but we'll see what's in store there, and also what the housing market's going to do.
So I'm waiting to see as well.
I think it's the H-1B or HB1s visas, because we've got Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all that stuff is right there in the Seattle area. So when visas expire and they have to get renewed, there may be a shift. I don't know what Washington State is going to do with that. Our governor is pretty volatile, but it's kind of a wait and see. And hopefully the housing market has a favorable adjustment and not like the bottom drops out of everything. So it's I'm looking forward to this coming year.
So aside from Hypnosis Hero and PHS, are you involved in any other things in terms of the hypnosis world? Are you doing any other podcasts or?
Mainly Hypnosis Hero. I think I've been on with Joe Beth a couple times. Dan Goyette with the Hypno magazine.
Hypno World magazine.
Hypno World, yep. And then I pop on to Hypno News with Grant and Sean. Kind of when I trip, stumble, and fall into it. It's usually it's trying to have a phone call with them or shooting them a message, and it's like, oh, I don't know, we're about to hop on Hypnosis or Hypno News, and I'm like, oh, cool, send me a link. I've got time. Like, let's go. As far as other organizations, I'm a member of the Freemason fraternal organization. There's a caveat. If you do a Google search for Freemasonry, there's going to be a lot of weird stuff on the internet.
A lot of costumes.
We're not sacrificing chickens. There's a lot of dumb stuff. If you really want to have a kind of a dive into what they're about, do the Google search with insert state here that you live in or what you're curious about, and then Grand Lodge or Grand Lodge of insert state here, and kind of get to an official website, look at their mission statement, their values. And then I'm sure you've probably heard of Shriners, Shriners Hospitals for Children. So there's a local temple, is what we call them, close by where I'm at. And so there's a lot of fundraising stuff that we do. The main mission for that is raising money for children's healthcare. So if we have a lot of like your cleft palate, clubfoot, scoliosis, burn victims, once they become a Shriner patient, we sponsor them all the way up through age 18. And if it's a medical condition that our medical staff can treat over the 27 hospitals, I think, in North America, and some of the other like outpatient clinics, there's no cost to the family. We cover,
it's amazing.
We cover 100% of the travel for at least the child for the child and at least one parent or guardian. And so that way, regardless of income level, regardless of insurance, like we have to accept some insurance and then we pay for the rest. And that's just the focus on, the emphasis is the family will never receive a bill, and that way they can focus on supporting their child through their recovery and, whatever they're dealing with.
That's huge.
One of the memorable cases that, I still kind of get a little emotional kind of thinking about it. It's because we're at that Christmas season and it didn't happen in Christmas. It was, I think it was kind of springtime. this 16-month-old baby is in Monterrey, Mexico, and mom's out in the garden just doing work. So young mother. Well, it turns out as the child gets bit in the leg twice by a brown recluse spider. So
Oh,
they
goodness.
finally get the baby to a local clinic in Mexico, and the pediatrician happened to be a Shriner. He calls the cell phone of a counterpart at Shriners International headquarters in Tampa, Florida, who just happened to be having dinner in Mount Lake Terrace, Washington at the Nile Shrine, sitting next to a good friend of mine who was the potentate, so the CEO of the temple, if you will, for the year. Phone rings multiple times. Finally, he steps away and goes, all right, this is important, answers it, comes back, t-shirt white like he saw a ghost. Gets up, makes his remarks, like probably 20 seconds. Like, thank you for having me. Food was great. Awesome. Hey, Dale, I got to talk to you. How much money do you have in the travel fund? It's like, well, here at Nile or in Tampa? And he goes, I need $35,000 for a medevac flight, like now. And here's why. So Dale's like, yep, green light. Just tell them to get all of the wheels spinning in Mexico. We'll deal with State Department. And this was all during COVID, or kind of post-COVID, where, rural Mexico, they don't really have like a lot of administrative stuff like birth certificates and everything, but we have special relationships with the State Department for these things. And it was like, we need to get this child flown from Monterrey, Mexico to the burn unit in Galveston.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we'll figure out all the paperwork. We'll figure out the money. And so it's just green light everything. And I think it was within 24 hours that the child was on an operating table, and it was like 4:00 in the morning the next day, local time here in Washington. Dale gets the phone call from the nurse and says, of course, Dale's after dinner. He's like, all right, now his wheels are spinning, going, 16-month-old baby, he's going to need below the knee amputation, because we saw the pictures and it was like if an infant could step on an IED, it was bad. He says, all right, this is going to be a sponsorship for like the next 17 and 16, 17 years and some change, multiple prosthesis, and like, cool, we're ready for it. It's what we do. So he gets the phone call the next morning and says, it's the charge nurse. And she goes, hey, everything went great. Doctors were able to save the leg by about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And because we had the ability to act as quickly as we did, he said that the child was about 2 to 4 hours from not surviving.
Yeah.
So he spent 4 more months. I think he went from the pediatric ICU right to a hospital bed. And I mean, this is probably several hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, in care that was provided. And you get this young mother, like, Merry Christmas in the middle of summer. Here's your kid. You're gonna get a long life. So that was kind of the first.
And then you don't know how many lives you saved, because you don't know how they would have taken that death, or how it would have affected their family or their marriage. So multiple lives saved.
Oh yeah, there was another case where I think rural Mexico, they have their primary source of heat is the fireplace or like a wood stove. And so you put the bassinet by the fireplace, log shift, the log rolls up against the side of the baby's body, so it's like a lot. Goodness. So a lot of skin grafts and everything. And so the struggle on that one was, dad was super, I think mom was like 18 or 17 or something like that. Oof. Biological dad was right about the same age. And so they're like, we don't trust the Americans. So anyway, like, it was like an uncle or somebody comes in, goes with the baby to the States, and gets there and is like, calls home and is like, oh my God, dude, you need to see, like, the facilities here are amazing. They are doing wonderful things. Then it was like, all right, now let's get mom, dad up here to do all that stuff. So it's really about, and I mean, you take like the floods in Washington State here in Western Washington. It's great to see, despite our differences, you see the humanity of like, we genuinely want to help. And when we have the ability to affect that change in a positive way versus, okay, this is forcibly mandated through legislation that our money is taken away, we have no control over how it's spent, and it's frivolously just pissed away. You have people that are opening up their homes or saying, I've got dry land where you can put your trailers. Do you need to put a fifth wheel here? Do you need, horses and cows and stuff like that? We really want to come together as a community, and I think we need more of that. And as I'll kind of circle back to military service. Like, I remember 9/11, the original. I was 19 years old, right before I was going to turn 20. I came back from a medical appointment. I'd watched the second plane hit on live TV. I went back to my unit, wrote my will. Here's live ammo. Go search the logistics center gate for, search all the commercial vehicles for bombs. Nope, you're not going to get a bomb suit because it's not going to do anything anyway. Calling home going, I don't know when I'm coming home. And it was a very, very scary time in America. But then September 12th, you saw yellow ribbons everywhere, American flags everywhere. We were proud to be Americans. And I was on a field deployment when President Bush, the second one, basically told Saddam's kids, you've got 24 or 48 hours to get out of Iraq, or like, we're going to bomb you. And just being like, yeah, we finally have like a straight, like, there's no fluff, there's no ambiguity. It's, in no uncertain terms. But then it was also like, man, we're going to kick off a war here. Hindsight, was it worth a 20-year battle and trying to, on two fronts? That's
hard.
But, again, it's mindset. Everybody was like, oh, this is warmongering, and Dick Cheney owns Halliburton stock and the humanity. And my dad's like, and I'm like, well, what are you going to do about it? My dad's like, I'm going to go out and buy me some Halliburton stock. That's just kind of like how you roll with the punches. You go, look, how can I make things work for me? Because you can yell and scream and piss and moan about stuff, or you can find a solution and go, all right, here's the cards that I'm dealt. How do I make the best hand? Even if you have to bluff. But it's been
quite a ride.
Yeah. I kind of look back going,
but you've always kind of had service to other as like one of your highest values.
It is something that's important to me. I'll give you a snippet of Masonic oath: aid and assist, applying to me as such, and I deeming them worthy. So it's really, don't get scammed at the person who walks up to you at the gas station who kind of is eyeing you, waiting for you to make eye contact, and then they walk up and they're like, hey man, how are you doing? Oh, I just want to be really honest with you, and I really hate to ask. And it's like, okay, then don't, because I know you're going to pull a scam. You see somebody who's struggling, or you hear kind of through your friend network, hey, somebody needs help. Okay, what's the likelihood that my effort, energy, or money is going to be either paid forward? Am I going to see a return on investment? Is it actually going to be utilized for what it needs to be, or is somebody just going to slide right back into the same situation 10 minutes from now? Really have the ability to do that analysis and invest in good people. And even if it may not pay out right this second, that's one of the, I'll be candid.
Well, we never really get to see the payout. We don't always get to know like the depth of it. It's, you can't predict that. It's like the butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil and
the fractals
halfway across the world. You really don't know like how assisting someone is going to ripple out forward in so many different directions. We can't keep track of all that.
And that's, have I thought about completely unsubscribing from this wonderful world we live in? All the time. It's, some days it's a daily struggle. Sometimes it's like, it doesn't cross my mind for quite some time. But one thing that I kind of hold dear is, in the end, it's my choice. So if I'm here, it's because I choose to be. And I think one of the things that really kind of drives me to continue one foot in front of the other is, I may not be right at that like pinnacle of success just yet. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm always just like right there. And I joke with my roommate. He's like, dude, we're 7 numbers away from retirement, because he does the lotto. And but once I reach that spot or that level of success, I want to be able to look back at every single person who showed me kindness, who assisted me along the way, and go, this is your return on your investment. This is my way of demonstrating that your time wasn't wasted. And, that's my gift back to them. And then if I have at the same time, if I have the ability to pay it forward, again, if it's as far as someone's necessities require and my ability permits, let's do it. So those are just things I try to keep in the back of my head.
Shifting gears, because we've officially made it the longest episode I've ever run. Is there anything we should know about you moving forward in terms of projects coming? What are you doing with Hypnosis out in the world now? What's coming up for maybe Hypnosis Hero?
What's coming up with Hypnosis Hero? I think that's probably more of a Sean Kostiuk question. He controls the schedule. I just kind of show up and try not to break anything. No, we've got I think 2026 we're going to be kind of experimenting with some new things. I know that one of our, at least kind of one of my big focuses is going to be working with Grant on kind of making the elements of PHS 2027 and the road leading up to that a little bit more timely and efficient. We've had some lessons learned.
Are you kind of like Dan Goyette in that you take like maybe 3 days off and then you immediately start planning the next conference?
I have it on good authority that we will probably have 2027 booked and at least date set before before 2026's conference is over.
Yeah.
And that's just getting us, the folks at Gold Coast have been absolutely wonderful. When there's been an issue with scheduling or the calendar, I get a message or a phone call, and it's just reaching out to them and saying, hey, this is what we're experiencing. They look at it on their end and they go, oh, yep, here's what's going on. Let me fix that. Whether it's we need to add more rooms that are available or not, or just tweaking the website, whatever needs to be done. They've been great. We definitely want to do a lot more promotion. I think we've got some things that are going to be value added for this year or for 2026's conference. So reminder to everybody, Christmas Eve is the deadline. If you go to bed without hotel reservations and Santa doesn't bring them to you on Christmas morning, you're paying full price. So go to the performinghypnosissummit.com, get your discounted room rates. But yeah, we've got some great stuff that's lined up as far as some of the extracurricular activities. But going back to what I've got on the horizon, it's kind of anybody's guess.
What are you doing with Hypnosis these days? Are you do you see people or are you doing stage shows?
I think the focus is going to be working with some different organizations kind of across the United States, and Joe Beth and a couple of other people to do really start raising some money, whether it's for some of the Masonic organizations, different shrine temples. I've got some emails out with Boys and Girls Club, and really just trying to make some connections there because I want to be able to help and do something. And if I can have in the process, if I can make a living and pay for travel or have that travel kind of pay for itself, it's a good day. I do know one of my goals is to get over to the UK, have Grant kind of show me around out there.
Yeah.
What,
A couple of
whether
conferences out that way.
whether I make a guest appearance on one of his shows, just as a, you know, kind of a greetings from from the United States. You know, it's, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be working, but it's just kind of supporting him through that, and just really kind of focusing on knocking a lot of stuff off of the bucket list that I want to do. I spent
Yeah.
I spent my entire 20s and, you know, a fair amount of my 30s in litigation and in a courtroom. So now that, you know, my kids are both adults, really kind of focusing on doing some of those things that I wanted to do and have not had the opportunity to.
You had mentioned alienation at one point, so it sounds like you were able to restore the relationships.
Yes and no. So there was a relocation. So it kind of odd. The ex was allowed to relocate to Southern California, where I originally grew up. There was a relationship she was pursuing down there.
So it was more of a physical alienation rather than mental, emotional, I guess.
A little of both.
Okay.
So Washington State decided to retain exclusive jurisdiction because it's kind of strange, because when you allow somebody to move and relocate to a place that they've never lived in,
Yep.
there's a certain time period that you have to reside there to establish residency. And so
I guess all of our stuff was done in Oregon. And so it did stay in Oregon, even though we moved to Washington State.
Yeah. And so in Washington State, if you had lived here, I think it was like 6 months or 9 months or whatever the requisite time, you could have taken those orders and said, hey, we're filing in Washington State where they're going to have jurisdiction for enforcement and everything. But
we were nice. We didn't bother doing anything of that.
Yeah. So
we weren't trying to be a pain in anybody's ass. We were just trying to live.
Right. I mean, if it was like, hey, everything's all done and over with, it's like, okay,
it was
nothing.
not done and over with. But then again, with some people, some things never are, right? That's just the way they are.
Yeah. So Washington had jurisdiction, and then I think it was about 6 months later, the relationship between my ex and a gentleman down there ended, and then she just up and was like, I'm moving out to New Mexico, to where her parents had moved to retire. Okay. And so I'm like, wait a minute, this is problematic. So I filed a contempt action up in Washington State, and the judge went, well, I'm not happy about this, but I'm going to allow it, and then awarded her like, I don't know, in excess of like $8,000 in attorney's fees, and basically said, Brian, you can't file any pleadings or any court action until you pay this. So that kind of by default cuts me off. It violates my right to due process, you know, the access to the courts and everything. And, you know, say there was any type of like emergent thing that required court intervention, there was no safety valve per se. So that was a really dark time in my life, where I was like, you know, I'm a dad, I'm fighting so hard to be a part of my children's lives, but then just constantly being told I'm this piece of garbage. So that was about a year for that to make its way through the appellate court. So if you do a Google search of Bay versus Jensen, it's a December 2008 case, Washington State Court of Appeals, there's kind of a pretty detailed breakdown on how that worked. So finally, the appeal came back in my favor. Then there was, you know, now the kids are in Washington State. And then, you know, when you're dealing with difficult people, you kind of sometimes you have to argue with them to get you to fight, to get them to do what you want. So I wanted the kids to be in Washington State because I wanted to come move back up here. So what do? I tell the court, I want the kids to be returned to Washington or to California. So she argues, no, Washington's a good place, this, that, and the other. All right. So December 2008 comes. I come up to Washington, see the kids, go to court. I think I'm up here for like a month. And so she's already moved into a place. And then it's, hey, I want to go take the kids for Christmas to go visit my parents. All right, fine. She goes down to New Mexico. So I think Las Cruces and, where's Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso.
Corpus.
Yeah, they're probably about 45 minutes away from each other. So all of a sudden.
Lived in Texas too.
Yeah. It's hot down there.
Oh God, I miss it.
Yeah, so she goes down for the Christmas holiday for a couple weeks, gets married, gets pregnant, comes back. I go pick up the kids, and then all of a sudden,
at least she came back.
Well, she came back to go file everything, going like, well, I want to relocate with the kids now to Texas. And I'm just sitting there going, oh my God. So, fortunately, one of the judges was like, enough. All right, we're going to inject some stability, because at that point in time, my son was on his, I think, third elementary school in 3 different states, and he didn't finish kindergarten.
My goodness. We moved quite a bit, but mostly because the toxicity was a lot. And then my step kiddo had trauma that was not diagnosed because of the isms and, all of those diagnoses. It's kind of hard to catch all of the rest when there's trauma, but that kid was traumatized before too. Yeah. And then we spent the whole rest of his life trying to work through and reeling from it. And so I think there were times when she wanted to say we were alienating her. And it's like, no, we're trying to give him a chance at life, because you can't be knocking on windows and doors in the middle of the night calling him to, let you in.
Yeah.
With who knows what intent in mind. So
I'll never forget that we're standing in the courtroom, and the judge is going through the paperwork, and like she's making her argument. We're like, well, here it is. Like, 4 weeks ago, she was making the argument in her own writing, sworn under penalty of perjury. Washington is the best place, stable, and they've been here for almost a year, and so the judge goes, okay, I'm gonna, he's making his ruling, like we're gonna have some stability, and the kids are gonna remain here. And all of a sudden, I hear this slam on the table. And my ex-wife slams her hand down, and she looks at the judge, and she's like, well, we need to figure this out right now, because I'm leaving tomorrow. My ears popped because of the collective gasp of everybody going, and the air pressure dropping. And I'm looking at my attorney, and she just like holds her hand up and is just like,
let it play.
Just
let it play out. Just let it. Yep. Give her just enough rope. That's what our attorney used to say. Let her have the rope.
So the judge looks at her and is like, well, I'm not saying that you are not able to move, but if you move, you're going to, give custody to dad and whatnot. So she ends up staying with a friend, so she doesn't move. And then one day it was just like, hey, are you going to come pick up the kids on a Sunday night? And it was like, you running late in traffic? Oh, I'm in Arizona on my way to driving to New Mexico or to El Paso.
Wow.
I'm like, the kids have school tomorrow. So, she abandoned them. Wow. Then she comes back, I think, does somehow, she was back here for a little bit. Well, now she's got child number 3 for her, but child number 1 with her and new husband. Child number 2 for them on the way. He's down in Texas, and I'm sure they were having the conversation of like, look, I want to be with my kids, understandably, like a father would. So she's kind of caught in the middle. And so she comes back. I remember one day, it was a weekend, it was like, hey, I'm moving back down to Texas, and this is what we're doing. And so the kids were kind of upset. And so it's just like, because they miss mom. And I'm kind of like, well, we were on a week on, week off that was kind of working. And all right, now we're going to do a long distance thing. So it is what it is. So
how old were they at the time, roughly?
I want to say my son was like third or fourth grade. My daughter was probably first grade or something like that. So pretty young. And I remember, the weekend it was like a Saturday morning. She drives up by the house, and she's like, hey, I want to talk to you. And so she's trying to play let's make a deal. She goes, I will pay you whatever child support you want if you let our daughter go with me. And my son's walking up from his friend's house because he saw his mom drive into the neighborhood. So, well, I get to see mom before she leaves. He's walking up and he overhears this because he's walking up behind her and I can see him. I'm like, so
man.
what about our son? And she's like, oh, well, he can just stay here with you and come down and visit. And I said, well, they're kind of a package deal. And I said, how does that make sense? That, you know, our daughter seems to be more important. She's like, oh, well, you know, she's more bonded, you know, and she comes up with some excuse. And I said, why don't you make that make sense to our son who's standing behind you? And she turns around, like her face kind of drops and she's like, oh, hey. And I just watched my son's like whole body just deflated. And he turns around like he was just so disgusted. And so he ended up going inside and like he just watching my son just absolutely break. Like, why doesn't my mom want me? And it was, you know, so then anyways, they finally get like a hardship transfer and they get up to Washington and, you know, I'm like, look, let's do 50-50 again. You want to go and commute from Fort Lewis all the way up through Seattle and you think that, fine, I'm not going to fight you on this. And so then it just turned into different types of the warfare, you know. Oh, we got the kids a cell phone. Then all of a sudden photos, pictures of the inside of my house that she's never set foot in start showing up in court pleadings.
Yeah, see, that's where the Army really saved our lives. Because my husband got custody pretty early on just with things that had happened. It was one hell of a fight. I'm pretty convinced that had I not been there, he wouldn't have won. And that really sucks. Just to see how stacked it is against men. Having their children is brutal.
My Court of Appeals was 45-50 grand just in that 1 year. And then I think total we were, this is like 2005 to probably 2013.
We were in court the same years.
Oh, I'm talking about just in that in that period of time. We were probably, I think my dad and I, you know, calculated everything up, and it was, we had drained my entire money market account, stock portfolio, everything that he and my grandmother had, you know, saved, you know, my entire life. And I think we were into it about, I think all in total, we were into it about 200,000.
Wow.
And
it wasn't that extensive for us, thankfully.
Yeah, it was.
But then
once you get therapists and guardian ad litems and all these,
of these people experts who won't give the proper opinion and be honest about what they're seeing on top of that shit. Did you have that experience too, where
they'll play people back and forth?
Yeah, it's brutal.
Because if you can keep the parents fighting, then you can go back to the court and go, well, do you see how volatile this case is? And somebody, you know, everything is, it's about the children. You know, you mismanage your school district's budget, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It's, well, we completely ignored, you know, maintenance on a school. We've blown our budget. We've given ourselves raises and everything. We need to increase taxes. We need another bond levy. We need all these things, but it's for the children.
Yeah, we have that too.
And it's like, no, we're not the, you know, bottomless bank account. But yeah, it was just a big thing. And then finally, you know,
well, I ask because, you know, alienation is one of the that's trauma inducing as well. That's incredibly painful. I've got a pretty big demographic of my clients who experience that, and I've had personal experience with it too.
Yeah.
So, you know, the odd times that my spouse's ex would have our kiddo, she would play games. You know, she would try to alienate him, turn him against us, create rage in him. And then we'd come home to a time bomb, you know?
Yeah. And to be, you know, to be completely fair, you know, in when I was married, when I was young, like I did not say no enough. I didn't stand up for myself enough. You know, because the self-esteem wasn't there. And when it came to the kids, it wasn't that my ex, like, she kept a clean house, she cooked food, she was, on top of medical appointments and things like that. Where the abusive side would come in is, like, for example, she'd get my daughter worked up hours before we do an exchange. Like, oh, I'm going to miss you so much. And, what am I going to do when I'm gone? And I'm going to be so long. I'm going to miss you so much. And I'm like, I've got this catatonic child that is just inconsolable. And then it's like, we get her home. Okay, here's Australian Shepherd puppy dogs. And once we were able to get her snapped out of it, it was like completely different child. And then
every time. And there's a transition on both sides. And that's the thing that sucks. There's the before the drop off and then after the pickup. And
then when their mom or their stepdad would come by to, pick them up, I was like an airborne jump master. Like, kids would like look out the window, hey, mom's here, whoever's here. And it's like, all right, cool. Quick, like JMPI, like, all right, backpacks, books, toys, all your stuff that you need. Okay, look you over, cool, coats, ready, set, give dad hugs, be good for mom. See you in a week, ready, set, go, spot on the butt right out the door. And there was no, what is dad gonna do? Because I remember being a kid going like, well, I miss mom. And
no kid needs that.
It was like, we go back and forth every, 3 or 4 days, and they live 20 minutes apart. And it's kind of interesting. Like I remember when my brother graduated high school and I'm in my dress uniform. My mom comes running up to my dad and my stepmom, and she kind of like grabs my dad's arm and she's like, we did it. My dad's kind of like, forgive my confusion. Like, we did what? She's like, we got both kids through high school. They're graduated. And my dad goes, we didn't do anything. The boys did the work. And it was like, they had their own turmoil with divorce and custody battle and everything like that. So am I a product of, my own things there where it's like, all right, don't rock the boat. To my detriment, it was really funny. It was like my mom wanted to be my dad's like drinking, like my best friend. Now it was cool when I had children that it was, hey, I can pop them down there for a couple of weeks and they can equally share time. They can
work it out.
Be civil and be adults because yay, grandchildren. So not knocking them on that. It was just when my parents got divorced, it was the early to mid 80s. The family law court system had just kind of come into effect, and I went from me and one other girl in my class of 30 or 35 had divorced parents to now if your parents aren't divorced, like, you're the minority. And it's sad at how, 30 years, it's 30 or 40 years, it's shifted that bad. But it's I finally, the hardest question
so I knew about the military trauma, but I didn't know about those other levels of it. So I've learned a lot about you today.
It was
we have so much in common. It's crazy.
No, I think the toughest question I ever had my kids answer or ask me was, why does the fighting have to be the way that it is? And the only thing I could really tell them was like, look, mom thinks what she's doing is right. I think what I'm doing is right. We have a difference of opinion, but in the end, we both love you. And this is kind of a grown-up thing. And admittedly, that was a cop-out answer. I mean, it was an honest and a fair one, but it would have been so much easier to be like, why is mommy no longer with us? Mommy had cancer. Mommy got a car accident, struck by lightning, act of God. At least there's an explanation where they can go, okay, I'm at an age where that makes sense. The maths, and we process and we begin to move on. And I'm sure the converse is true that, if my ex was asked the same thing, but when children are used to punish the other parent, it's I can say this with impunity. The kids are the ones that suffer in silence. In the end,
they're destroyed utterly and fully and completely destroyed.
Parenting investigators, CASA, guardian ad litem, whatever you want to call them, they're there for the money because they get paid. As soon as the money runs out, all right, well, I'm going to move on to the next one. Children are a commodity, and it's really unfortunate. So I'm hoping that, kind of the next generation, do we get to break the cycle? Do we get to, empower people to think for themselves, to make good choices, think critically, ask the uncomfortable questions, and not just go along just because they're scared.
Precisely.
But yeah, God, we've been. You're pretty easy to talk to. I'm like, I was thinking about this, so I was while I was in the shower cleaning up and shaving my face, thinking I'm gonna go
be
have a camera on, and everything like that. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what we're gonna talk about. I'm like, oh, God, she's gonna like Barbara Walters me and like get me to cry, and I'll be a sobbing mess.
People do cry on this podcast, but it's not usually my fault, to be fair. Although I am curious, and I do like to know how people went through things. Because like that whole thing with the legal system and my spouse then going active duty and us improving things for our family, there were so many layers in there that I didn't realize were traumatic and like deeply freaking traumatic, like it didn't register until way after the fact.
So folk, like if you've ever listened to Sean Ryan's podcast, when he interviewed DJ Shipley, he talked about,
yes, I did watch that
SEAL
one.
Team 6 operator.
Yeah, I did.
So he talks about all the stuff that he was going through, and like like getting electrocuted, and all the like suicidal ideation, and the addiction to pills and stuff like that, all the different ways he was trying to cope. And it's like, on the surface, anybody would be telling him and his wife to be like, get divorced. And they were strong enough to put in the hard work and really, work things out. I think they're probably both better off for it. And, these guys will tell you, like, it's either my first wife or whatever. I didn't have the tools in the toolbox to cope. And, so I try to give them some grace. But to anybody who's listening, if you're in a relationship that's not healthy, if it's toxic, if it's to your detriment, like, I'm not going to tell you to get out. I'm going to tell you to make a choice that's best for you. If you're, there's, and really understand the difference between, okay, we've got some hard work to do and we've got an uphill climb. If you guys are both climbing and you're both fighting the fight together, great. But if someone's going to look at you and go, why should I? Cut away, pull your reserve, And it's not that you have to go screw the other person over, but you need to begin to make that transition. And if you are somebody that is going through a divorce or any type of child custody, whether you were not married and had children together, the best piece of advice that I could give to somebody is, you are mom, they are dad, or you are dad, they are mom. Both parents love child, and you need to do everything in your power to take the emotion out of it. Take that step back, talk to your attorneys, whoever you look at as like advisors and for guidance. Let them have a objective, try to look at it from an objective lens as possible, and not so much do what's best for the kids, but it's take that emotion out of it and really, do what's right. And sometimes that is to stand up for yourself and fight, to dig your heels in, to go, no, I'm not going to do that. But
the other thing is,
understand
I think
why.
That should be mentioned. Like, if you're dealing with someone who's on personality disorder, or they're just not a healthy functioning person with an extreme, get the right help is really important. If you have an attorney that doesn't understand narcissistic abuse and you're about to go to court with a narcissist, you are in for one hell of a ride. And the legal system is not made for that. It is absolutely not made for that. So finding the right supports of people who know, and it's the same thing for therapists and counselors.
Pick your battles too.
Absolutely.
When you go in for a hearing, you're going to have, a mountain of paperwork that you've submitted. You're probably going to get 5 minutes aside to make your point and counterpoint, and then the person who filed the motion might get a few minutes for quick rebuttal, and then judge or commissioner, whoever is presiding, may ask some clarifying questions. And the reality is that if you and the other side cannot make a decision and reach some type of resolution, somebody who's wearing a black robe is going to do it for you.
That's right.
And
they really don't care about the micro. They're looking at the macro.
Yeah. And I mean, I could do another hour on just the family law stuff alone, but I'm not going to subject myself to it.
It is a huge, God, it was the worst thing. I think our attorney understood, even though we didn't have the words at that point to say, hey, I think this person is having a variety of traits that belong in the DSM, even though we couldn't verbalize it in that way. When we would describe to him the amount of, lack of a better word, fuckery that was happening.
Yeah.
I think he had personal experience and he knew how to navigate it, and we lucked out. And he was someone we got from JAG, because again, we were in poverty. So we couldn't have just afforded anybody on retainer. He saved us. He really was our saving grace.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know him because you're close, but he was in Oregon. And he always went by Andy. I'm trying to remember his last name. It's escaping me.
No, you can always send me a message with that, but I'm not one to advocate just carte blanche, like stepping away from being a parent. But if
we couldn't. It wasn't safe for our kiddo for us to do that. Had we done that, he wouldn't have had a chance at life. I mean, already he lost out on a lot of good chances at a healthy life. But
in my case, what I was running up against is I had a judicial system in two separate jurisdictions that refused to hold my ex accountable for her actions.
I hate to say it, but it is rampant with women getting away with things. Like, it was awful to sit and see it.
And then all of a sudden, a wild accusation gets made with no evidence. And then, I'm still convinced that money changed hands behind the scenes. And if I had the resources, if it was like if I was Iron Man, and I had the financial resources and the technology and everything, and for lack of a better term, the FU money, I would be putting a lot of state workers like behind, in jail. The follow the money, the corruption, the stuff that's there, and then I finally just had to go and have that conversation with myself, going, "You're fighting a losing battle. You're throwing good money after bad." The things that are in place with the restrictions and stuff that are there, it's designed to bleed you dry. So in the end, if you do prevail out of this whole thing, it's going to cost you your house. It's going to cost you everything that you have. And then when you win, it's going to be, well, now you don't have a place to live. So by default, you lose. And now someone watched you just dwindle it all away, and really having to take that step back, going, all right, I had custody of the kids for, like, I was a custodial parent for 6.5 years. When it came time to, turn over those reins and have their stepfather adopt, I was looking at things from a variety of standpoints. Liability. I'm able to kind of prove, you can't really prove a negative, but when there was nothing that was there that anybody could act on. And then I saw the writing on the wall going, well, we've got this juvenile court thing for a child dependency. And then, well, we're willing to dismiss this but we need juvenile court to allow mom leave to go to family court, get adequate cause to modify the parenting plan. And then once family court allows her to take the kids to Hawaii, where they had relocated to at the time, once that happens, we will dismiss. And so I raised the argument, and I said, well, if you guys dismiss the dependency action because you guys have nothing, the adequate cause that you're claiming exists to justify changing the parenting plan, that goes away. which means we revert back to the final parenting plan. You guys have looked into this. There's no justification. I win. And all of a sudden it was like, ruh-roh. We had 5 attorneys in there and
Oh my
going,
God.
Okay, quick scramble. How do we resolve this? And I just went, you guys are stupid. The system is so broken. And by that time, my son was coming up on 14. And I was like, all right, we're going to just run out the clock. We're going to take a step back. And, it was one of those things where I was like, hey, if I step away, give my ex-wife all the control that she wants. I just want to be a part of the kids' lives. And she was like, nope, I'm not having that. So she got the kids to Hawaii, changed phone numbers, changed addresses, and all I had was an email address. So each holiday, each birthday, each everything, it was like emails going, I'm available. I would like to talk to the kids if, my door is open. And so that was, a big source of contention. And then you've got a number of years where, the well gets poisoned. So, you're kind of waiting for the kids to kind of get curious. So, it's something that I'm working on. It's one of those definitely, handle with kid gloves, proceed with caution type of a thing.
At this moment, we're still relatively minimal, no contact. But then again, we had a lot of mental health issues in terms of our kiddo. He was on the spectrum. There was trauma. There was thing after thing. Every ODD you could imagine he was getting diagnosed with. And so come 2019, he'd already had a couple of residential stays in psychiatric, getting top line therapy best we could. And it just wasn't working because every time he'd have visitation, be gone for a summer or something, so much damage would be done and there was just no coming back. And so finally 2019 he actually tried to hurt us both, and that was kind of his intent. He'd had that plan, told his therapist, got that ball rolling.
This is opposing party or the child?
No, my stepson.
Okay.
By that time he was kicking around 14, so hormones had started to set in on top of everything else.
and it's kind of that like natural selection thing where, and this all stemmed, my son was at that age where it's like, we want to go buck up to dad. We're gonna, it's like dogs. They're gonna go challenge authority. They're gonna try to establish some type of dominance, and
he was oppositional defiant. He was oppositional defiant. He'd always been that way. It wasn't just, hormones just amplified it, but then he would have so much rage. But he just got out of residential right before we moved here to Ohio, and it had done well. We sent him to San Marcos. They were wonderful. Treatment was effective, was helpful. And then we'd been here. And then
you
kind
of just get
Christmas.
Curious going like, what's the outlet for kids these days to, let that rage loose? We used to go and we used to go roll around in the dirt and fight and run around the canyons playing army and sports and, hockey. You can hit one another and knock each other down.
But he didn't even have that because he was on the spectrum and he really had a hard time making friends. Like that was so difficult for him.
And now what are kids doing? They're staring at a screen. They're staring at a screen playing games that just normalize violence, and it's almost a form of entertainment.
And we didn't allow that, and that was the problem, right? So mom was more of the Disneyland mom kind of situation. She didn't really have to be a full-on effect parent. We did that. We gave the structure, we gave the routines.
We ensured society as a whole, when like in a video game, your character, your avatar dies when you respawn. In a video game, hey, I shot my friend that I'm playing against, my character shoots his character in the face. Ha ha ha. I threw a hand grenade and it's almost like that's their version of, the Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote.
We sheltered him. We sheltered him. So he didn't have access to that with us, but then he would go home, to Christmas vacation.
I was speaking kind of,
and then he would.
In general with kids today is that they don't understand the gravity of when you get in an argument, when it's like, okay, we're kind of shit talking back and forth to now I'm making threats of physical violence and how somebody's going to respond. And then somebody goes, oh, well, I've got to play the one-up game. What's lost is two kids go out and duke it out, settle their differences, work it out of their system. And then it's kind of like, all right, well, there's at least some respect for each other. You know, you shake hands when you're done.
I think like that's tough because like, yeah, society is different, but he didn't have a skill set to navigate life in that way to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just a totally different ball of wax at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so we haven't. And, you know, when we sent him during COVID of all times,
yeah,
he couldn't come home because he was threatening our lives. And then he couldn't go anywhere because a lot of the residential places weren't taking people because of COVID. So he was actually stuck in the children's hospital in Cleveland for over a month.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Schools these days, you know, a friend of mine's a police officer, and he says the schools that his kids go to, if kids start squabbling and tussling and fighting, the school staff are kind of like to lock arms and like form what they call a protective barrier, which means we just created our own human octagon, and they are forbidden from intervening, even if one child is like absolutely stomping another kid's head in.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
And I'm like, there's nobody to just snatch a kid up or both kids and go, you know, you shake them and you're like, you know, not like shaken baby syndrome, but it's like
what are you saying here, Brian?
you get their attention, and it's like, this is not okay.
Yeah. And
you know, you're going to go do your detention. You're going to go, whatever it is, you're going to go deal with mom and dad. And, you know, dad's belt may clear belt loops and your butt might get warm, but
different world.
there's actual, you know, consequences. And now kids walk around school and go, you know, they're using racial slurs with teachers. They're telling them like, you can't touch me. And they're getting, you know, super brazen and brave. And, you know, now it's a safety issue for the school staff.
It is.
And other students.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. So anyway, towards the end of that residential stay, he ended up going to Arkansas. We didn't get anything resolved. He wasn't complying with therapy. He wasn't communicative. I mean, I was at a point where it's like, you know what? I raised him from age 2 to 14. I'm kind of done.
You can
he
only
won't be coming back.
You can only help the willing. And that's kind of where, going way back,
I was getting to the point of, you know, like I looked at my husband. I said, listen, I left my first marriage because it came down to, am I going to love him or am I going to love me? I chose me. I'm not going to start making a different choice here. I said, you know, it's been 12 years.
And now you're putting
I kind of given my all. Mom wants in there. If he's enough, if he's strong and tough and he can hurt us, he can defend himself. I yield, I give up. But we did it consciously in that we knew what she would do. And so we actually said to him in therapy, we are not going to call you. We're not going to contact you. You want to reach out. You're willing to take accountability for yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come to that bridge. Never happened. So now he's, you know, he was born in, God, I think 06. So he's coming up to what, 20, 21? Somewhere around there. And we're still no contact. I don't anticipate
life's going to get real for him fast.
Well, she's not the healthiest. So we always questioned about what happens after she passes. Is he going to, you know, wonder about things or maybe remember that he had people that loved him in a healthy way? Either way, you know, so there's some stuff to look at, but we never did rekindle any of it. And I'm actually kind of at peace with it myself. And my husband is too.
And sometimes that's okay because, you know, at least with my marriage, I got to the point where I was like, I'll give you $1,000 in cash if you'll just schedule a marriage counseling appointment. And it was like, well, why should I? And I just went, all right, I have left everything out on the field. I can do no more. I don't have any I don't have any question in my mind of like, well, what if I had done something different? I just was like, you know what? She proved every bit of, I was just a resource. I was a means to an end. And lesson learned.
When you're dealing with an adult, we were dealing with a child, abuse coming from a child, and then it's a totally different dynamic. And it's like, holy shit, am I crazy?
different dynamic. But I mean, if you break it down simply, you went above and beyond. There is, I mean, if I asked you,
we tried our best.
Was there any other option that you could have reasonably exercised. And if the answer is no, it's like, then you can only help those who want to be helped, and you can only have a relationship with those people who want to have a healthy, respectful relationship with you.
I was lucky because at that point I had closure, I had acceptance, I had accountability, and that was enough for me. But there are some people who go through parental alienation and they don't have any of those things. And the trauma that creates, the mess that creates, the inner turmoil is just a lot. And that is enough to also cause
the first lady that
PTSD.
The first lady that I dated after starting the divorce and everything, I was like, what do you mean you like being around me? It was like, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you. And it was that was foreign to me.
I remember dating my husband, and before we were physically in the same space, I said, I can't wait to hold your hand. He just like, hold my hand. Why would you hold my hand?
Yeah, and it was like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm running a little bit late, or I got off work late or something like that. And it was like, okay, cool, I'll see you when you get here. There was no
hysterics. No.
What do you mean you're second? You were probably out, banging your girlfriend or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm 5 minutes late because I got stuck at a couple of traffic lights on the way home. Like, what do you, so it's just that type of.
So you had the push pull, love you, I hate you, don't leave me.
Oh
BPD
God, yeah.
Style us too.
The get out. All right, fine. And then it's like, shove me out of the way, throw herself across the door. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? And I'm like, I don't possess the social. I don't possess the social skills to deal with this.
No win, crazy train. That is all it is. And so when people ask, why do I have the peacefulness? How do I make people feel so safe, so comfortable? It's because I've had to develop resilience and emotional regulation like you can't even dream of. I didn't get here on sunshine and rainbows, is what I tell my clients.
I remember my dad telling
me.
That's what
they think, though.
My dad was telling me, he goes, son, I want you to just repeat what you just said, or let me share with you what I just heard you say. And I want you to kind of soak this in and really give some thought about the status of what your marriage is in. He goes, I just heard you tell me that you are actively trying to deploy to the two-way rifle range, hoping that you don't get the enemy marksmanship award. And so that you don't have to deal with your ex-wife.
When I met my husband, that's where he was at.
And I was like, yeah. I'm like, that's when it all made sense. I'm like, we've got to do something. But it was, there.
Actually, his hope was that he would come home in a body bag, and they would be cared for, and he wouldn't have to worry.
Yeah. I had all my life insurance stuff. My father was the beneficiary, because even when we had children, it was, okay, he's going to have the wherewithal to put things in place and set up the financial vehicles that will be there for the children to protect them from their mom from just draining everything. So, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, God, we've been 3.5 hours. You've been doing the marathon. You're a trooper. So
we are made of tough shit, Brian Bay. Well, but no, I enjoyed getting to know you, hearing the different layers. And I think, it's so relevant because there's so many people going through it, just like you and I did, and they don't know. They don't know what they're going through. They don't know what they need. They just know that they're exhausted. They're tired. It's a lot.
Yeah. You never know that you could be one phone call away. Oh, your audio cut out. Can you still hear me?
I'm still here.
Okay, there you are. Yeah. No, you never know if you're just you could be the next phone call away from the solution to your problems. It's and when in doubt, just keep in mind that forward progress, no matter how small, is still forward progress. Keep moving in the right direction. And sometimes, keep in mind that sometimes if you're walking across a minefield or a cow pasture, sometimes moving laterally from side to side is a strategic move.
Right.
So
one of the best things I learned from World of Warcraft, strafe.
Yeah. Fire superiority and lay down suppressive fire, move and communicate. So
well, thank you for being incredibly generous with your time, your story, your experience. I know that people are going to find that invaluable.
Yeah, we'll do this again, and we'll talk about more, fun and enjoyable stuff.
Will we?
I've got a yellow lab here that's
dancing,
retired drug dog that's going like, Uncle Brian, you missed breakfast because you slept in. So I've been waiting patiently at your feet, and nap time is over, and my tummy clock is telling us that there's things to do.
Mine aren't, because they know that's Dad's duty.
Yeah, he's just a big goofball. So, well, yeah, we'll next time we'll make sure that cameras and stuff work.
That would be great.
How to.
Okay, so I'm going to let the audience know. Thank you for joining us. But Brian, don't go anywhere just yet.
Okay.
Soulful Seekers, stay happy, stay healthy, stay well, but most of all, stay inspired. We'll catch you on the next one. And I will put info for Brian Bay down in the description and comments. Thanks for sitting it out with us. We'll see you in the new year. All right. Hold on.